Had a little listen to his podcast, huh?
Dude, it's educational. And besides, I've been wanting to listen to this one.
Welcome to Idling in the Impala, a podcast by and for lovers of supernatural and the fanfiction it inspires. I'm Kasey.
I'm Sandra, and we're chatting with an absolute gem of a fandom friend that I had the pleasure of meeting in real life back in September of 2024 at the DC Con. Jackie, known as Jinkies, Would You Look at This, in many a fandom circle, identifies as a bibro. For clarification purposes, Dean girl with an obsessive Sam kink. She's been posting supernatural fanfic on AO3 since 2015 and has massive creativity that extends well beyond storytelling. I selfishly wanted another opportunity to discuss all things supernatural with her and see what's next on her lengthy to-do list. Lucky for Kasey and me, Jackie agreed. So, big thanks for joining us today and welcome to the podcast, Jackie.
Welcome.
Yay. Hi.
Good. I'm so glad you got to join us. We said right before that you do not get the as professional intro. AJ got the same when she was on because for anybody who isn't aware, Jackie is in our Discord server for Idling in the Impala and is a pretty long time listener, I'd say. We'll probably get into it a little bit more, but has just been a part of our little community. And so also getting the chance on my end to meet her as kind of like, barriers are kind of like down. So anything goes when it comes to this interview. But Jackie, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. I'm thrilled to be here. So
good.
Amazing.
I did want to ask, because just how long have you been listening to us?
So it's funny because it's one of those time has no meaning anymore in particular, because it's really just since somewhere towards the beginning of this year, I think is when I found y'all's podcast and started listening. And then, I binged through it and got caught up pretty quick. But it's been a really long year. So
yeah, it really has. It really has. Just thinking about the binging, like knowing Kasey and I always I think cringe a little bit, like, oh, at the very start.
Yeah. No, don't go back there. None of the memories are.
But we're glad you stuck around after you binged.
No, you two are lovely. You're so much fun to listen to. Seriously.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Appreciate that. You've been in the fandom, I think, for a lot longer than we have. So I think we kind of wanted to just pull it back and start at the very beginning and find out when exactly you got into Supernatural.
So I started watching Supernatural at the very beginning of 2015. So the show was airing its 10th season. So there's actually a little bit of a story to it. So my mom, who is a huge fan of all things sci-fi, horror, fantasy, all that stuff, she actually started watching the show in 2005 when it started.
Okay.
And right off the bat, she was like, I really think you would enjoy this show. You should watch it. But I was hooked on Lost at the time, which I think aired opposite. So and I just wasn't recording things, I guess, at the time. So I was just like, okay, whatever, good to know. I'll keep that on my radar.
Right.
And then didn't get around to watching it. My mom, every once in a while, would just be like, you should really watch this. I think you would like it. And,
did she give you any info as to why this would be something you would like? I mean, did she really hone in?
There's a long history with my mom with shows. My mother has both fabulous taste and the worst taste in media. She loves grade B sci-fi and horror, which is movies like Killer Clowns from Outer Space and Attack of the Killer Tomatoes.
God, I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah. Some of the movies that she
does Evil Dead still count as that? Or has that been elevated now?
I don't. So yes, I think it is, but
the
it's
original.
More
I mean, not the whatever remake they made.
Yes, well, and the original Evil Dead's a very different movie than Evil Dead 2 or Army of Darkness. They're all fabulous, but two of them are almost slapstick in their approach to things. Evil Dead is it's both a really great and a really horrible horror movie all at the same time. But I love that one. But so my mom just some of her taste in things is a little questionable. She loves the Batman movie, Batman and Robin, which was arguably horrible. And she adores it. So I whenever she tells me something's really good, I'm kind of like, okay, is it though? But she did this with Buffy the Vampire Slayer, which she has never let me forget. Where that one started, she's like, you would really like it. And all I kept thinking of was the movie, which I was like, well, I enjoyed the movie.
Discussion about that.
Yeah.
It was so campy. I was like, okay, Mom, whatever. And again, it took a while. And then I finally watched it. I was like, you were right. I was wrong. This is fabulous. I love it. She did the same thing with Supernatural. And I knew that's probably what was happening, but I just wasn't in the right mood, I guess, to watch it. And so I kept putting it off. And then my sister started watching it too. And my sister was like, it's actually really good. And I was like, dang it, if they both agree, it really probably is something that I would enjoy. But it was just sort of like on my list of things to watch. Right. And then I actually joined Tumblr back in 2011. Right. So, and when I joined Tumblr, of course, along with it, I started getting like bombarded with, I think that was just before the whole super hulock thing kind of exploded on Tumblr. Right. Because I think Supernatural hit Netflix at the very beginning of 2012. So it was just a few months after I got on Tumblr. Supernatural just exploded in popularity and it was everywhere. And I was seeing it via GIF format everywhere. Like it was just like weird little disjointed bits of this show that make
no sense if you haven't watched the show. Yeah.
But it was
sometimes
funny.
they don't make sense even after you've watched the show.
Right.
All that happens is you go from going, is that a real line from a TV show to, is that a line or a blooper? I can't remember.
Right. And so, like, at that point, I think I was like, oh, that's that show my mom's been talking about and trying to get me to watch. I should give it a try. And this is the funny part to me, knowing where I am now. I started watching the pilot and I got partway into it and I had to stop because Dean was pissing me off so badly. I couldn't get through the episode. I was like, right. And it's funny when you think about it. So I was like, no, I wasn't in the mood. And I recognized the fact I'm like that. If I'm not in the mood for something, I just won't enjoy it if I make myself watch it then.
Right.
So I was like, nope, we're going to stop this. Obviously not the right time. I can't. So then like a year went by and I'm still being bombarded by all things Supernatural. And I was like, I should really give that show another try. Watched the pilot again, got partway in, had to stop it a second time because again, Dean was pissing me off.
What about the pilot? What was it?
It was that whole, the initial sort of fuckboy mentality, that like attitude that he comes out of the gate with, right?
Right.
When he shows up in Sam's apartment and he's very much, and I know now that it was a defensive act on his part, right? Like I get it now. And now it doesn't bother me. But at the time I was like, oh, I can't with this guy. This is just like all the stuff about certain types of people I don't like. Right. So I was like,
so interesting because I kind of feel like, well, you've heard, like he was not my go-to right away. Right. Like it took for me, it took a long time. And then it was like, whoa. So it's interesting that he hit you that way.
Yeah.
Too, in the beginning.
It was the third time that I tried watching it, which was at the beginning of 2015. And finally I was like, this show has been on for 10 years. I know pilots are often rough. It has to get better. I need to just knuckle down and watch through it. By the end of the pilot, I was hooked. Right? Like I literally just had to get past that part. And then I was like, oh, okay. And I watched the next episode and the next episode. And long story too long already.
We love these kind of stories, Jackie. I
ended up watching, I think I made it through season 1 in somewhere between 3 to 4 days. Like once I got past the pilot, I devoured the rest of the season. And then promptly devoured the rest of the 9 seasons that were on Netflix by the end of January, I think. Like I started at the beginning of January. I was done with what was out by the end of January. I have frightening abilities to hyperfocus and just devour things. But it's funny because I like Sandra listening to you and how your sort of journey with Dean went made me laugh because when So for those first few days, because it really only took me a few days to get through
season 6.
1. Well, no, season 1.
Season 6.
Right. So for a few days there, I was like, oh, Sam is amazing. I love Sam. Sam is the guy.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't until the end of season 1, and there was and Dean had been growing on me. Past the pilot, he just he just grew on me as they allowed the character to open up, and you start to see his more vulnerable side and the depth to him and stuff like that. And it's not that I lost interest in Sam. All of a sudden, I just went, oh, okay, Dean's awesome too. This is great. And then it was in the end of season 1, Devil's Trap. What? Right? No, it's Devil's Trap is the end.
Devil's Trap, yeah.
Yeah. There's that scene where they're rescuing their dad and they're climbing down the fire escape, and Dean is basically holding John, and Sam is getting beaten to death by that random demon that I don't think we ever really learn his name. And then it's just that moment watching Dean put his dad down and then rush to save Sam, and then end up having to basically carry both Sam and his father off at the end of that scene, where I realized, oh no, Dean is the
oh no. Oh, this is bad. I'm in it now.
Help. Yep.
Yeah. And that was kind of,
I don't know. I just find it really fucking endearing how Sam Winchester falls unconscious. Just really into it. It happens often. You have to be into it.
He passes out so erotically.
It's
so
wonderful, beautiful, isn't it? That's why I'm convinced that's why they make him keep his hair long so it goes swoosh.
Yes.
When he falls over.
Fan out around his head as he lays there.
I just watched a scene. It was in season 11 when Amara comes into that, when they're trying to get Cass out. And then she just attacks Lucifer in Cass's body. And there's so much wind, and just Sam's hair is just flying everywhere. I'm like, that is a Kasey moment, if ever there was one.
Whenever I think of Sam falling unconscious, I always think of, I think it's in 8, and he's mid trials, and they've gone to find Metatron, and he's fucking delirious, and he's like, I'm gonna go talk to the motel owner, and Dean's like, you're gonna take a nap, and he falls back on the bed, and as the camera and as he falls, and his hair splays out beautifully, and I'm like, oh, that's why you keep doing it, innit, lads? I don't know, man. That's real nice that normal people I really love the way Dean, Jackie's a nice normal person. She's just love the way he was looking after his dad and his brother. And I'm I love the way Sam falls unconscious.
Oh, I'm sure as we get into it, there's going to be more behind it as well. But yeah. No, that's really interesting. I don't think I've ever actually we'd never dug into your story, your introduction to the boys and how that happened. I don't think
I've never spoken to anyone that's been I quit the pilot.
Well,
that happened.
I mean, I'll say this: when I'd heard about Supernatural, I watched the pilot episode. I think we watched the first 2 episodes, 10, and I think we watched pilot and then Wendigo, and then it wasn't. For some reason, we just didn't pick it back up for a little while, and then I was like, let me go back to it. So it didn't. The ending of the pilot, I think, really grabbed us, but then it didn't sustain it, I guess. And obviously there wasn't enough man candy for my stupid eyes to say, maybe you should just continue to watch this. But it took another rewatch on my part to start and then to bring him on. So it wasn't an immediate sell for me. And I so love hearing when some people are like, yeah, I was hooked from the get-go. And I was like, it took me, obviously, it took me a while to kind of really figure out where I fit watching them. So right. I think one thing we have to think about is when it comes to your mom, you have to find out whether or not you consider, she would say it's a gourmet meal or junk food, right. in terms of what she likes. And then maybe that could help you in terms of maybe I should give this a try or maybe I need to wait. Do you think she would consider Supernatural a gourmet meal or junk food? How do you think she would?
I don't think she makes any distinction
there.
And I think that's where my hesitancy to believe her.
You need a rating. Comes from. You need a rating.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Need a scale.
I think what I need from her is, at this point, if she says, I think you would like this, I need to believe her.
Yeah,
no, I just need to believe her. Right. If she's just like, oh, that was good, I really liked that. Then I'm like, okay, but is it garbage and you liked it? Or is it actually good and you liked it because the line is weird for her. So
yeah, I liked it because it's garbage, or I liked it in spite of it being garbage. It's difference.
Yeah.
It's
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. She's not very particular. Let's just put it that way.
Okay. She gives herself the opportunity to
she enjoys stuff.
ingest a lot of different media and just like have it. Yeah. Which is, a lot of people.
Sounds like my husband.
Mm.
He's like that.
So does she binge? Anything. Is she a binger?
Yeah, she's become a binger.
Okay.
And I think as all of us have, like as it's become easier to just watch episode after episode after episode, because like Supernatural for me is a marathon. When I try to watch it, like it requires pacing and it requires constant encouragement of myself to make me actually get all the way to the end and not like lose focus and wander off and get distracted by something or jump back to the beginning before I finish,
I feel like there's a whole bunch of Kasey questions that have to come in now because I know there's a standard, but then there's also another one that we've been bandying about.
Wait. when you watch Jackie, do you take a sanity break between seasons?
Oh no, I usually roll straight from one season finale to the season opener.
No, that's physically painful. I'm gonna start asking people that. I'm gonna put that on the list of questions. I take a sanity break. It doesn't matter if I finish the last episode of a season at 9:00 in the morning. I can't watch the next season until the following day.
Huh. Yeah, I
have to take a sanity break, and I can't just have a nap either. It has to be like a full day reset. I have to take a sanity break. I have to absorb the finale, and I have to be ready for the next season. And I do that with pretty much every TV show. I can't just roll. The only TV show I've done that with, and I did it by accident, was The Big Bang Theory. And I was like, I'm in season 2. When did I end up in season 2? Oh, it's because it doesn't fucking end. It's there's that, like in the early seasons of The Big Bang Theory, they don't have like a looking back, it's a pretty big momentous, like, oh, will they, won't they? But it doesn't feel like that when you're watching it. You just, because it ends on a cliffhanger, so you just go through to the next one, and then you're like, oh, I'm in season 2. Fuck. Yep. But as soon as I realized I was in season 2, I had to stop. I stopped. I finished my episode and I stopped, and I was like, okay, I need a sanity break.
I think that's probably a healthier way of approaching it. Honestly, there's just, if I'm in the mood to watch it, I'll just keep watching, like without stop. So
I've tried, and my brain refuses to like engage and focus on the new season. I'm just nope. I bet that down. Just stop asking people that. Well, I don't need to ask my question, Sandra, because you answered it in the intro.
But you can still ask it. Don't you want to ask it?
Yeah, all right.
It's like Sheldon. Do you need to knock 3 times? Like, I want to give you the opportunity to do it.
I don't like that because I do knock in a specific way and it upsets me. If I just knock, like, that's okay. But if I start a pattern, I have to finish it.
That's what I mean. Yeah. I want to give you if you want, I figured you'd want to ask it even though you know. So for actual purposes, so you can like put it into the table.
Make it official.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like, gun to your head, Jackie, like, who is your Blobbo?
It's Dean. It's definitely Dean. And like, I hate that I don't like picking. I get cranky usually when I have to pick. But because I like
loads of time to prepare though.
Well, yeah. And I'm honest about it. Like, and I kind of went, it's been a roller coaster because like I said, for a very brief little blip, I would have said Sam. And then it was Dean for a long time, just unequivocally Dean. And now I've kind of come back. I've reached an equilibrium where I'm like, it's both of them. Like, you can't separate them. They are a bonded pair. They need to be adopted together. But but gun to my head, it's Dean. So
yeah, that's fine. I was talking about this maybe yesterday, the day before yesterday. I don't fucking remember when it was. I was talking to Sandra and Dreamer about this because Dreamer identifies as a bibro as well. And she was like, no, you can't have one without the other. And I'm like, well, I think I ended up coming to the, like, bringing it down to people categorize it differently. Like, gun to your head, who would you rather be trapped in a cabin in the snow with? Or who would you rather come and rescue you? Or who would you call for, like, it's like, people don't always categorize it as who do you think is the most attractive or who do you love the most. It can be different things. And that's okay. Oh shit, I put you down as Sam. Fuck. That's because the columns are not in alphabetical order. Oh, look, Dean's clocking in at nearly 20 now, people. Where my Sam bros at, y'all? Anyway, feel free to cradle the squirrel gently in your hand, feed it some peanuts, pass it around. It's getting really fat now, so if you could try and not feed it too many treats, feel free.
But he gets so happy when you give him treats.
You do. That's why he's fat now. Yeah. This is Squirrel Dean. This is no reflection on actual Dean or Jensen Ackles. Don't at me in the comments. The little imaginary Squirrel Dean, he's real fucking chubby. He's wearing flannel. And when we started this podcast, he could button his flannel up, and now he can't. And it's really fucking cute. Yeah. He's like spiked up the little fur on his head into Dean's little tufts. I'm mentally creating this little squirrel now. He's wearing blue jeans. They don't button up anymore either.
Nope.
Aww. Somebody draw this, please. Somebody make fun of a little fat Dean squirrel,
Somebody
please.
Probably has. We just defined it.
No, I want it made for me. I don't want to go and find it. Somebody make me fat Dean fan art, please. Squirrel Dean. Squirrel Dean.
My goodness.
Oh, gosh. What else were we asking? We had other questions?
Well, I mean, I think one of the ones we've been throwing out recently, or we've kind of like, depending on guests and stuff, it's kind of like a little theory we have as to.
Oh, yeah. So I'll start off then. Did you finish the show, Jackie? I know you said you've gone back and watched it, but that doesn't mean you've watched it to the end.
Oh yes, I've watched it all the way through. Technically 3 times now.
Do you watch in order?
When I'm watching the whole show, yes, I will watch it in order. But I in between, because I mean, watching the whole show, it is a marathon.
It is.
I'm not always up for that. Sometimes I just want to watch a random episode and then I just pick and choose.
Yeah. And do you do it for, we'll probably get into the fan fiction side of things a little bit, but I'm assuming you would probably go back to certain episodes if you're needing some sort of inspiration or something going on. Do you go back and watch the show for like those purposes or no?
I have. If I'm writing a story that fits somewhere within canon, I will often go back and watch the episodes around that time period just to kind of try to firm up voices in my head, if nothing else.
Right.
You know, like just because, you know, the vibe of the show changes a little bit, you know, as it goes along. But otherwise, usually when I'm writing, I have a tab open permanently for transcripts, and I refer back to those more often than the show. Watching.
Thank you for sharing that, by the way. I use that with my the Wincest Big Bang, because I was trying to find quotes and things or things that I thought, you know, someone had said, and I was like, I think it sounds like this, or I think this is what was written, or this is what was stated, and I like had to go back and actually find it, and then I could find like the part in the episode, so then just to be sure, like I would go back and watch the scene, like, you know, to make sure like everything kind of was there. So yeah, thanks for sharing that. That was helpful.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
Cool.
Jackie is one of the people that if you need an answer to a question, by the way, Jackie will be able to give it to you.
I am terminally online and just a bit on the obsessive side, so it's fine. I'm happy to share.
It's a great resource. It's a great resource. Great resource, and we appreciate that.
So having finished the show, and I'm pretty sure we talked about this in Discord, but I will give you the chance to tell the world. Like, where do you lie on mystery spot then? What are you kind of vibes? Do you love it? Do you hate it? Are you ambivalent?
I actually love it. And I love it probably for the reasons that I know, Kasey, you hate it or don't like it.
Why do you hate Sam like this?
Because he tortures so beautifully.
You don't think he's got enough? You don't think after 3 seasons he's owed a break?
Yeah. So like,
no.
But it's part of what I love about the show, because I do love both of the characters. Like I like what the show ended up doing. Like, you know, and I know that different people fall out of it in different places, take, you know, issue with different directions that the story ended up going. I just like it. I just enjoy the story. And with Mystery Spot, I love the fact that it comes out of the gate being like Groundhog Day, super silly, and everybody's laughing, like, you know, at Dean because the ridiculousness of the deaths and, whatever.
Sam
and
isn't laughing.
Right. No,
Not
that's the thing.
laughing.
So, but as the audience, like we go into it going, ah, ha, 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 do these tacos taste funny to you? And then but then as you're watching, there's this growing sense of dread. And then all of the sudden you realize, oh God, Sam. And then it becomes this horrifying tragedy. And then it ends. And spoilers, but the show never really goes back and addresses the trauma of that. And I kind of dig that because it leaves it open so much for the fandom to dig in and play. It's one of the things about Supernatural I like what they do with the show, but I also like the fact that there are spaces. There's so many spaces. I don't think that they're necessarily holes per se, but where you can dig in and explore stuff that the show just opted not to because of logistics and timing and the fact that, they were going places with the story and they just kind of went, we're not just going to, these guys are highly traumatized. We'll just leave it at that. And then they just move on. So I don't know. I find it really fascinating. I like the episode because it's horrifying, but also funny.
I think it was with the Freak Camp authors, because that's where the mystery spot question kind of kicked off.
Mm-hmm.
Where we were like, did the 6 months that Sam spent trying to bring Dean back, did they actually happen? Or was it like a Tuesday? Did they happen and Sam's memories were just wiped by the trickster? Or did he send Sam back in time so those 6 months never happened? How do you think it went down?
I think from Sam's perspective, he lived through it. From the rest of the world's perspective, it never happened. So unfortunately, I think Sam and Gabriel are really the only ones who know what happened there. At least that's the way it seemed to be presented, which again is the more traumatizing version of that answer. But I think it's the more interesting one, because it kind of adds, back to the preferring, preferences between Dean and Sam. I know a lot of people, their personalities are part of that, right? We're more drawn to one or the other. But one of the things I love about Sam is the fact that he is dealing with as much as he is dealing with, and he doesn't really talk to anybody about it. He's not really dealing with it. It's just sort of there, and you get the impression that it's kicking around in his head and he's probably obsessively thinking about it, but it's all inward, none of it ever is there's a scene at one point where he's talking with Rowena where he gets to talk about some of it, right?
Yeah, with Lucifer.
But And it's a powerful scene because it's so rare that we actually get that from him. The fandom has this weird assumption about the guys that they walk around saying that Dean's all repressed all the time and Sam just loves to talk. And I'm like, it's actually the opposite. Sam likes Dean to talk about stuff.
Yeah, Sam doesn't like to talk. Just likes Dean to talk. Yeah.
Yes. And Dean likes to think that he's all stoic, but he's not, not even remotely. So I don't know. I find it all fascinating, but I think that the impression that I walked away with was that Sam remembers all of that, but otherwise the time got reset. So nobody else knows.
Yeah. I don't think for a second that Sam doesn't remember that. It's just a question of, do you think that those 6 months happened and Dean just doesn't have any memory of where those 6 months went? Or do you think that the trickster sent Sam back?
I think the trickster sent him back. I think he reset it to the date that it all started as if it never happened. But
Sam has.
Yeah.
Poor Sam.
I know.
Yeah, but I mean, don't you think the trauma, when you get down to it, the trauma aspect of it, this is why we can put these, they can't be put into a everyday life situation very easily because of the amount of trauma. If you talk about how many decades Dean legitimately went through in hell, the time that Sam spent in the cage, the time that Dean was in purgatory. Like all of these pieces and parts of them that they would not even talking about Dean, like even though Sam might want to get him to talk, I've never felt Dean as being he's not open about his stuff either. Like neither one of them are, they just, and I think that's what makes it, like you said, so very interesting to dip into it. I think it gives the writers and everybody else this sort of, the ones behind the show, this get out of jail free card in terms of what they don't have the time to do and go back to. And there's a lot of like open plot lines or threads that never get answered. And Jackie, if you're a fan of Lost, I mean, I would assume that.
Yeah, you got to be the kind of masochist that doesn't need answers to
or
enjoy the show.
Damn it.
I've tried.
No, even like with fanfic, I know a lot of people are like, if it's not finished, I can't read it. And I'm like, I've read so many, and I do it myself. I'm not a hypocrite. Like I'll if somebody posts half of a fic and then wanders away from it, I'll probably still read it. And it ends and I'm like, oh, wow. Okay. No more of that, I guess. But
oh no, we're different people. Different people. You prompted my brain in a funny space there, Sandra. There's not so much to do with Supernatural, but when you mentioned the decades in hell and the decades in purgatory, do you think there's a critical mass on torture? That's an excellent sentence.
No.
I will expand on that.
No, because I think that in the end, like whatever Sam dealt with in the cage.
No. I don't
compare that. Balance it out. Is that what you mean?
What do you mean?
I don't mean
critical
that.
Mass?
I don't mean that. So I mean, like, if you were to put the boys in our world, and you couldn't recreate hell torture, but you could certainly lock Dean up for a period of time and physically and mentally torture him. Like, you couldn't feed him his own intestines or whatever the fuck else it is.
Right.
That they
There's
do.
limits. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you could, but that would end the torture very quickly.
Yeah.
You can't feed someone their intestines, but only once.
Yes.
No. Do you think there is a moment when the length of time you torture somebody has no more bearing on the torture? So if you say you torture someone for a year and that's less bad than torturing someone for 5 years, is that then less bad than torturing them for 10 years? Do you think there's a point where the amount of pain and distress that can be inflicted upon a human reaches a critical mass?
Yes, I do. And I can actually weirdly tie that back to a matter of debate about Supernatural, right? Because we were talking about we have a good idea of how much time it felt to Dean that he spent in hell, right? Because the show actually talks about it, that he was tortured for what felt like 30 years. And then he spent 10 more years being the one to torture others, right?
Yeah.
But they never talk about Sam and his time in the cage. And I know that fandom likes to run rampant about, estimates about how long Sam was in the cage. And sometimes, it's comparable, like they use the same basic, like equation for time that was used with Dean. And other times they expound upon it with the concept that the lower down, the deeper into hell you are, the more the time distortion would be. So like some people, will say that he was in there for the equivalent of thousands of years, right? And generally the defense of those stances, that it was a longer period of time than what Dean experienced. The defense of that is that because of the amount of damage that Lucifer did to Sam's soul, obviously it had to be forever, like a really long time. And I disagree with that. And I disagree with it because in the really real world, if you have somebody if you had someone like a person like Lucifer that was so able to get inside someone's head, right? And we're talking about psychological torture where basically they had free reign. They could do whatever they wanted to the person, whether it be physical torture, psychological torture, whatever. It wouldn't take that long to undo them, right? Like you can break a person, and it depends on the person and it depends on who's doing the breaking. But you can break people and it doesn't take lifetimes. And even someone who is as strong-willed as Sam is, the fact that he was pitted against Lucifer, who was like the ultimate at finding people's weaknesses and exploiting people's weaknesses and, unraveling people in that way. I don't think that it's necessary that Sam was in the cage for like longer than, like, I imagine it felt timeless. Like, I don't think time had a meaning to it, you know, under those circumstances. But I think that, I don't know. I just don't think that it would have needed to be like 1,000 years. And I've seen that number kicked around. But yeah, no, I think you can, like, in the real world, I think there is a cap. There is a point, you know, like, torture is also generally considered in the really real world not a good way of getting information out of people. So it's really just for the pure sadisticness of it.
Yeah, the pleasure of doing it. It doesn't work out great for answers and truth and
right.
and
Yeah,
things like that.
Because you break people, you know, and people will just start saying whatever they think they need to say to get out of what you're doing to them. So,
well, that's interesting, because I was thinking about it, like what Sandra had said about, you know, like the ages of the time distance, and Dean spent that time in hell, and I was thinking, well, you couldn't recreate that on Earth, because then he'd be old. He couldn't then go on and have the rest of his life. Right. Then I was like, would you need that time? Would you need specifically 30 years? Could you accomplish the same level of fucked in 5?
You could definitely. I think it, like, the trauma is trauma based on how it happens to a person. And I think that's very individual and how it affects the person. And I also think that this is why I always imagine the boys as being very mythical in and of themselves. And because they're in the supernatural universe, like, my headcanon is not that. Dean definitely went through all of that. But I think for him to come back topside and be able to function and not babble and not have to go immediately into a place where he needed constant help to get himself out and in a better place.
Vacation.
Yeah. For him to do that, in my mind, there had to be some parts that were taken out. You know, like some things he was like not able to reach or break through. Like, he knew, had flashes. I think if anybody had that rush of stuff of anything in their brain, and it's shown in season 7, you know, with Sam, and then what Cass takes on. So I think there's a break, but I think that these characters are at this level and in this universe where they're able to not rise above it, but they're able to stuff it down, not address it in a way that I think in our life, or our, you know, universe, I don't think that would be as easy for a person to do, if that makes sense. So I think that's why when we kind of always talk about context, Kasey, and how you just can't like plug them in without there being some sort of like reasoning in your mind as to how they've been able to make it through a lot of their stuff. And a lot of it is just not, they just avoid it, you know, because they have to, because how would you be able to function if you really took the time? If your job is to save people, hunt things, how could you do that and take the time to really dig into what's going on with you and the trauma? And that's what makes it very soap opera-ish too, in a way. And I think that that's why a lot of people, I think like Jackie was saying, like you pick apart those little pieces where, as we fans do, we try to get into the meat of it. And you mentioned the Jackie, you know, the scene with Rowena, like that's an amazing scene. You never get that very often with any of them. Or like Dean breaking down with Sam about hell for that moment. You know, it doesn't mean he's talking about it again. And you know, Sam, I would assume, we don't see it, but probably never talk to Dean about what happened those 6 months after, when, you know, he died and he had to go on. But you know he had to deal with it. So you're given these sides of a character to really ruminate on that the other ones don't have. And then you get into the secrets and all these other things and all the lovely stuff that we're like, want to shake them about. But I think that that's what it is too. It's just that they're in this universe where they're given opportunity to just keep going, keep getting up, keep moving on, because they have to for the story. They have to for their journey. And I think that that's why, their trauma. And I mean, I'm just getting through I'm just at the end of season 11, where you see Sam back in the cage with Lucifer, and you see Sam's expression and you see Lucifer taunting, and you're just like, oh my gosh, like just the hints and just the he's terrified. You know, he's so strong in the moment, but he's so terrified because he knows what could be coming. And that's, I mean, when they do things well, they do things well, I think. And I think that's a part of it too, is we, and I know you know this, Jackie, like we're like, the writers gave themselves this, like, you know, get out of jail free card with Chuck and everything, and kind of like leaving it up to the
'Cause
fans.
even this now, you're like, oh, well, was it Chuck all the way from the beginning? Did he meddle? Did he make them extra resilient? Or was it, is it plot armor based on the fact that, hey, it's a fictional TV show? You just never get a solid answer from this fucking show anymore.
I know.
Ending.
Yeah.
And I love that, but I realize that that's not.
Answers.
But it drives us crazy. But I mean, we're still talking about it. So I mean, what does that say?
It drives crazy in productive ways.
Yeah.
Yes, because it creates the perfect sandbox to play in. Because there is so much open, and they don't address so much. And I think honestly, it's one of the strengths, as infuriating as it is. It's one of the strengths of the show, and the reason why it went on for 15 years, and why we're coming up on, it's been 4 years since it went off the air, and we're all still,
still here,
about it, because we haven't run out of room to play yet.
Yeah. No, that's, I don't want to give that much credit to the writers of Supernatural, and certainly it wasn't the plan at the beginning. But if someone said, oh, we made the ending be that way so you could never be sure about anything in the show again, so the writers would have decades to play with, I wouldn't disbelieve that. I'd be like, yeah, of course, that tracks. What?
Right.
Yeah, sure.
Why not? Maybe it was a happy accident, but I think the writers went, oh, that worked.
Yeah, I don't want to give them that much credit, but seriously, if someone did come out and be like, yeah, we engineered it this way because there were too many threads for us to resolve in a lifetime's worth of TV, so we just went, Chuck fucked with all of it, and we just left it up to you guys. I'd believe that. Yeah. I believe that. No, the reason that I asked that, Sandra, sorry, my brain won't shut up about this now.
That's okay.
It's like, I have questions.
Yeah.
My brain drew the parallel between torture and saturation diving, which is a weird place for it to go. I appreciate that. But the concept of saturation diving, if you're not a freak like me who knows about these things, is that after a certain amount of time at depth, your body absorbs all of the nitrogen in your bloodstream that it is possible to absorb. And then it doesn't matter if you stay there for an hour, a day, a week, a month. It does not matter. You physically cannot absorb any more. Do you think that's applicable? Do you think there comes a point in the timeline where you can no longer be tortured because there's nothing left to
torture?
There's no more pain left for you to take on. You're saturated. You've taken on the maximum. I mean, you've reached the critical mass.
I mean, I think
it's going to make a great outtake.
I think as a coping mechanism, maybe, but I don't know. To me, I feel like you'd still feel the pain, but you might have to find a place to escape it in your mind. I don't know. That's a hard question because I don't know. Yeah, I'm not sure. Are you talking about like for the boys in particular?
Well, I'm talking in the show because there's a finite amount you can actually do to a real squishy meat suit before it dies. Right. With pretty fragile things. Yeah. And also there's kind of when you mention pain, there's obviously the fictional aspects of Supernatural that your body can be healed. So that the pain can be inflicted again and again and again.
They would do. Yeah.
But then mentally, would you get used to that? It's only nerves firing at the end of the day. You can get used to a lot of fucking things.
I think that's when we get to a whole grippy sock situation. Like, I think that's what happens. I think your body, I think for you to survive it in some capacity, I think you're coping, like you're shutting, something has to shut down for you to continue to, in my mind, something has to shut down for you to continue to inflict it and be in that space. It's just like anyone who's a survivor of abuse, I think after a point you build up a threshold, like you said, for it. It's kind of like I think about my husband's, chronic illness, and his threshold level for pain is much higher than mine. Right. And so then for him, an 8 for me, if we're doing a scale from 1 to 10, an 8 for me might only be a 2 or a 3 for him because he's dealt with it for so long. So I think that's just, I think you build a thicker, quote unquote, thicker skin, and maybe even in your brain or in your soul or however you want to, spiritually think about that, but I don't. I think it would depend on the individual too. Like, I think there's a lot of factors in that. But I think at some point you just have to stop, like you have to disconnect. And I'm sure that's what happened, I would think, with the boys. I think it's more torturous to know that they were given a small reprieve of, you know, hand waving and you're back again. Let's start all over again. Kind of like a lot of the Greek myths and stuff like that. Like, who was the one, like the one that would keep rolling the boulder up the hill, it would go back down, or the one where the intestines would get pecked at and then the next day it would start all over again.
So Prometheus, I think, is the one that had his liver pecked out every day.
Yeah, he stole fire.
But that was also in Supernatural. Yeah, so I mean, it's like, again, it's
yeah, but it was like a throwaway episode. Like the actual myth is really cool.
But it all comes back to Supernatural.
Just we got to give for everything, you guys. You got to give for everything.
So I don't know that. I think you have to build a threshold. I think for it. Not that it's good.
No.
Yeah, I'm not encouraging anyone to go and research this. Fucking hell. I'm just curious. Like, there comes a moment of like, I can't think of the word. Entropy might be the word. Like, think of like a terminal velocity. When you fall, you can only reach a certain speed. Then you don't get any faster than that. Everything ends. There is a limit to everything. So I just feel like naturally you have to assume, do you need to torture someone for 30 years to break them down? Could you achieve the same goal in 5 years? Let's you know, streamline the work process, people. Let's get this shit in line. We've got deadlines to meet. That's terrible. Don't do that. Yeah, no, just but you went put them in the real world, and my brain sauntered off and went, "Would you need to torture someone for 30 years? Could you? Was like 5? Do it."
I think it was her hyperbole, like on the show's part. It was kind of like, how can we make this just like off the cuff sound like horrific? Like he was tortured for 40 years, you know? And because, it wouldn't take that long. Like, as realistically as we can talk about anything that happens in Supernatural, it wouldn't take that long. I don't think. And I think it comes down to the other point, which is the old saying, whatever doesn't kill you makes you stronger. Like, the longer the torture goes on, you would have to build up you'd either build up some sort of a resistance or defense against it, or it would just fundamentally change you to a point where the torture wasn't achieving what it originally achieved.
Which leads us on to another interesting. I'm going to have to stop this because I'm just like,
no, that's okay. No. Go ahead. I like it when you just we'll take it out if I have to. Go ahead.
That leads on to a different question. When do you think torture is done? Because I think it would have to be when the person is in catatonia, that you can provoke no more reaction from them. They react to no more stimulus. That's it.
I mean, it would depend on what your goal is with the torture. Like, if you're trying to just undo the person, like if they're unconscious, you'd kind of have to stop and wait for them to come back, you know, and then pick it up again.
Oh no, I don't necessarily mean unconsciousness. Like, catatonic people are still conscious.
Sure.
They're just not, they don't respond.
Well, I guess so, unconscious or like present.
Yeah. Again, with the terminal velocity thing, I feel like there has to be a natural stopping point that you can achieve no more.
Right.
You have fundamentally changed this. This is really fucking philosophical. I am sorry, guys.
No, that's good.
I did not intend to go here.
Because
I swear to God, my brain just packed a bag and went, saturation diving. Well, because
then my brain goes into when Dean became the torturer, you know, and Alistair was like, you know, you were one of my best students, best pupils. Like, what was when did he stamp it? Go, yep, all done. This one's done. Like, what did he do? What was his job? How did he feel in terms of the torturing scale, if there was one, like when he would break a person? God, that's got to be horrible. Again, like, if those are the things that you're bringing back, you know.
But that was also part of the thing too, I think, that they did to Dean, because like Sam's torture was horrific because there was the only point to it was Lucifer's anger, right?
Yeah.
Lucifer was pissed at him, and Lucifer took that out on Sam because he had nothing else to do, right?
Yeah.
But with Dean, there was a very specific point to what they were trying to achieve. They were trying to make him break, which they did. And then once they broke him, they kept using him, right?
Mhm.
Because of course, part of what hell in Supernatural does is it takes human souls and it turns them into demons,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
Like it tortures them. That's the punishment for not being a good person. But then it makes them into demons who then turn around to torture more people and tempt people. And it's sort of like an evil machine, right? You know?
So, okay, I'm sorry. Now, so that's
No.
just why that just leads up to why he was he was a demon in end of season 9 into season 10, right? Like, is that the
Well,
thread line there?
I don't know.
No, that
It
was
was
the, that was no, that was the mark of Cain.
I know,
So-
but I'm saying, like, was that a preparation thing too? Like,
It
You're
probably
giving
helped.
way too much credit to the
I
writers
know
here.
that,
The
but I'm
writers-
saying
Nobody was looking back at
I
season
know
4
that,
going, okay,
but
we established
I'm saying
this.
if we look at it now, big picture, and we zoom out, like if he was given all of that and he was just at that point where, like, I think the goal was like turn him into a demon. You know what I mean? I don't know. It's a possibility.
Maybe
So
some
what
of the,
I think,
maybe
Go
some
ahead,
of the
Jackie.
groundwork was done. No,
well, and that's, yeah, I think the mark of Cain exploited that. Like,
Mhm.
and that was the thing, like, they didn't look and be like, again, I don't want to give the writers too much credit. I think they
Mhm.
did a surprisingly good job, like all things considered, but like, I don't want to give them too much credit. A lot of this was happy accidents, but like the mark of Cain took all of the negative, everything negative about Dean, and it ramped it up to 11, right?
Mhm.
That's what it did.
Mhm.
So it was bringing out the worst in him while he was alive. And then once he died, it just, that just went through the roof, right?
And he had
It
on
was
the
just
job
big.
training now. He had the training for it. Like it was like
Right,
it was
so, like,
there.
I mean, from within the context of the overall story, that was probably part of the reason why Dean was perfect for taking on the mark of Cain,
Mhm.
you know, because he already had stuck a toe in that particular pool of
he'd
water.
done the e-learning. He was ready.
Yeah, right.
Mhm.
You know,
That's fucking interesting.
mhm.
That's interesting.
I like
Yeah.
that you say happy accidents too, because I feel like we as writers, that's what
Oh,
we
yeah.
do. You know, like
Yeah.
when we get into it, like we go back and we make the connection. So, I mean, I think, yeah, we shouldn't give the writers enough credit, but then I think if you flip it, we are actually in that situation when we write fan fiction. You know, like we get to a point and we've built up some things in there. And then we go back and we look as we're continuing. We're like, oh, wait, I did this here. This might make sense now later on
Yeah.
down the line if I'm going in this direction. So it's very, very interesting.
And that's generally when I approach the writers of the show, I approach it as if they were just the official fan fiction writers.
Mhm.
Like these people's job was to take these characters, right?
Mhm.
And most of the writers, it's not like they created the characters. The characters were created by Kripke, right?
Mhm.
You know, like, so the way that serialized television works, like you come on as a writer and you're like, okay, these are the characters. This is the world.
Mhm.
Pitch scenarios.
Mhm.
Put them in situations, and that's your job.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing that fan fiction is doing.
Mhm.
You know, like you take these characters that somebody else created in this world that somebody else created, and you put them in situations.
You
You
what
know,
if them to death. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
and it's just some people are lucky enough that is their job, and other people get to watch the results of it. You know,
Yeah.
but
Yeah, they
then
get
also they
paid.
get blamed. Yeah, they get paid, but they
Yeah,
also
that's
get
the
blamed.
offset.
Yeah.
On the one hand, check. On the other hand, eternal damnation by millions of fans.
Right.
Mm-mm-mm.
Oh
Hmm.
goodness.
But after that lovely little detour, which may or may not make it into the episode, let's move on to happier things. This is happy for Jackie and Sandra. This is not so much happy for me. I'm not happy, but let's talk about ScoobyNatural, the season 13 episode.
Yeah.
Kasey has 0 horse in this race because ScoobyNatural is not of my generation, and I don't like the episode. Not because it's bad, it just gave me cringe.
Mhm.
Sure.
Feel real bad. I'm more endeared to it now. I've seen some of the behind the scenes of Jared and Jensen goofing off
Yeah.
while recording the audio. But yeah, no, please discuss.
Well, I was going to ask because Jackie, I mean, your username, Jinkies, would you look at this? You know, and then I've seen a bunch of fan art, and I've seen your T-shirts and stuff like that are very like Scooby centric and have like the Scooby gang with Sam and Dean and different things like that. So I was just curious because I was like, I wanted you to be able to talk about. Is it one of your? I'm assuming it's one of your favorite episodes.
It is and it isn't. So it
Okay.
occupies its own special little place. Obviously, I am a huge fan of Scooby-Doo, right?
Mhm.
Like, you know, there are two things that I post to the Jinkies Would You Look at This Tumblr, and it's Supernatural and Scooby-Doo stuff. And obviously the Scooby-Doo stuff isn't as often, but when it catches my attention, that's where it goes. When I fell into Supernatural in 2015, my main Tumblr I already had. And when I realized that Supernatural was going to be an obsessive problem, I created a side blog. So Jinkies is a side blog. And it's become, I'm way more active on it than I am on my main. So like, it's funny to me, but, and when I was looking for a name for it though, everything Supernatural related had already been taken. Every time I tried anything, Tumblr was like, that's already in use, pick something else, you know? And my brain just went with something long, and I was like, Jinkies, would you look at this? And it was like, that's available. I was like, yeah, go figure. So I had done that in 2015 and in the fall of 2015, I think is when I commissioned that piece of fan art that I've got that's on my t-shirts and it's on like the header of my blog and stuff. So that was at the end of 2015. I got that done. And it wasn't until like the spring of 2017 that the show announced that they were doing ScoobyNatural, right? So I'd already kind of established myself in my own little weird overlapping niche in the fandom there with it. So when they announced ScoobyNatural, like I got tagged in everything. Like just everybody was like, "Oh my God, have you seen it?" I was like, "Yes, I saw it." And I was really excited. And I was like, this is great. Like that was actually the first episode of Supernatural I let my kids watch. They watched it with me because I wanted to watch it while it aired and not wait until they went to bed and then catch up on it, you know, which is what I had been doing. It is kind of cringy. Like, I'll be honest, it's patterned. It's patterned off of Scooby-Doo, Where Are You? Which is the older, you know, like franchise, like the original franchise for Scooby-Doo.
Yeah.
And so it's got that older feel to it, which is the classic one that Dean would have watched growing up, you know, that I watched, that I was actually a member of a fan club. I had a little card, a laminated card they sent me in the mail and everything for Scooby-Doo.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. It's very cheesy, but that's in the vein of Scooby-Doo.
Yeah.
Like, so it's interesting because they didn't just make a new Scooby-Doo like episode, you know?
They got meta about it. They literally used an episode, like the start of an episode, which I was like, that's because I watched.
That is really cool.
When we watch it, Ted and I, we try to find the original Scooby-Doo episode it was based off of, and then we watch the ScoobyNatural show, and then we watch the behind the scenes. Right. So we do like a whole thing when we decide to do that. Because
does the behind the scenes cover Jensen's uncomfortable final scene?
I don't think so. With the
about with the ascot and the ascot.
They were like, people were watching them film it, and he was like, I hate this so much.
It's just the recording, I think, mainly that they talk about, like, you know, when they're behind, like in the recording studio and like the writers and different things.
That I'd be interested in.
Yeah,
I'd be interested in.
So, that last little bit it makes me cringe. I'm like, guys, it was a step too far. But sometimes, you know, they don't know how far is too far until they go too far.
Yeah. That's, and you know what? That's okay. As long as you take a step back from that line and you go, okay, we won't go there again.
Right.
That's how we learn. Yeah. That, like, I'm not going to lie. That is most of my problem with that episode is that I know. I mean, like, no, Scooby-Doo, it's not my humor. It's not my generation. It's not my cartoon. So I'm kind of like, okay, there's a dog. That's cool.
Right.
I don't get it. Like, none of these characters are representative of me, and the one that is gets loads of flack. I hate this.
Yeah.
It's not my bag. But you know, like it's a fun episode. Like, I'm familiar with the Scooby-Doo format. But then that bit at the end where it fucking zooms in on the circle he's wearing the ascot. I want to invert myself out of existence with secondhand cringe in that moment. And then finding out that Jensen was also really humiliated filming it. I'm like, no, I strike this episode from the record. Never watch it again.
Whereas with me, knowing that it bothered him makes it better for me. Because I'm like, okay, so it's not just us.
Fucking all right, Jackie, Jesus.
We were all uncomfortable with that. But one of the things, like Sandra, you mentioned, because like what I love the most about Supernatural in general is its meta game.
Mm-hmm.
It's unmatched. It's amazing what they got away with, what they just ran with.
Yeah.
And this one episode is a perfect example of that because like, yeah, they took an existing episode of Scooby-Doo, Where Are You? And they took Sam and Dean and they put them in it. But instead of just having the episode play through without them being able to change the course of it, it fundamentally changed the episode of Scooby-Doo because they were there. And then you get that fabulous scene where Shaggy breaks his arm and the whole Scooby gang has like an existential crisis. And I love it. That to me makes the whole episode. Like, and like, yeah, I love the visuals. I love the visuals of, you know, like baby next to the mystery machine and, you know, like the chase scene and they end up in the vases. And, you know, I love the whole like Dean being an utter perv towards Daphne. And I think that it's phenomenal that Daphne was completely oblivious to that. Like, that's not how I would have handled that, but I think it's brilliant and I loved it because it wasn't expected, right? Like, and it was such a shot to Dean's ego, you know, which made it funny, you know?
Yeah.
Because like, and I know that there are a lot of people out there that are like, ew, she's like a teenager. I'm like, she's a cartoon character.
Fictional characters, guys. I don't even like, I swear to God. I think I've seen the Jay and Silent Bob movie maybe twice, but every fucking time the other guy, Ben Affleck, not stop talking Matt Damon, just fucking explain to Jay and Silent Bob fictional characters, yes, for real. She's a cartoon,
but it is cringy. But it is cringy initially, like it is because like you really think about it, like, and I'm just like Dean. But then I get it. He's like, look, I've thought about, you know, she's a redhead. She's, you know, she's referenced many a time throughout the show. So, you know, this is a thing, you know, that he's had growing up, you know? So it's like, okay, it's a once in a lifetime opportunity. Of course, Dean's going to go for it. Like that's going to be the thing. Yeah.
I mean, like, maybe tell on myself, but if someone said to me, you can have a week with Sam, but it's going to be like season 1 Sam, I'd be like,
okay.
Yeah. I would pause because I'd be like, no, he's a baby. But then they're like, this is your one shot. No, you cannot have season 8. Don't be picky. I'd be like, yeah, give.
Yeah.
So yeah, you know,
you would. I mean, we can cringe, but then also say, but we would give it an opportunity.
And like with me, like, you know, I mean, I look at pictures of Jensen when he was younger, like on Dark Angel and stuff like that. And I actually watched Dark Angel, which is another funny thing. And I remember when his characters were introduced on that show, thinking to myself, oh, this man is very attractive. And I didn't have any idea who he was, you know, and I kind of, his name didn't sink in at the time. I just remember being impressed that one, I liked the character, and two, he was very pretty. And it was later on after I got sucked into Supernatural. And then somebody reminded me of Dark Angel. And I was like, holy shit, that was that guy. Oh, okay. Yeah. Now, you know, I mean, I'm 50 and I look back and I'm like, yeah, is it weird that I'm still drooling over these pictures of this guy when he was like 20? Yeah, a little, but at the same time, when he was 20, I was 24. So I'm like, that's not weird.
Yeah. No, you reason it out. You do. Because it's like, it's like, just because I didn't know of him at the time, I could still appreciate and say like, yes, if there was an opportunity, yes. Like, you know, those are things that would have happened. Yes, absolutely.
I don't know if that's better or worse for me. Because Jensen's like, what was he, like 78, 79?
He was born in 78. He's the same age as my husband.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's like 13 years older than me. So when he was like 26 in season 1,
right,
I was like a fucking baby.
Yeah.
I don't know. See, because I can't draw that comparison. I can't be like, well, when he was that age, I was that age. I look back and I'm like, oh, that's a baby. Somebody come get your kid. It needs a nap and a juice box. I can't. Yeah.
Well, I think that's why too, like, I've talked about that for me. Like when I first got into it, I was like, they looked young, you know, like they're for me going back and watching it in 2019. I had to wait for Jensen to age up a little bit more. And then it was like, okay, here we go. Season 6. Yep, I'm on board. Here we go. This is it. This is what's happening. But it's interesting how we, and again, it's all these what ifs and it's these opportunities if we were given. And again, like if you can get beyond the cringe of that, yes, of course. If Dean loved the show. And again, like his love and care of the characters, like wanting to, like, we have to fix this. They can't believe that this thing is actual reality. We have to get them back to their happy place of it's just somebody with a mask on where, they pull it off. And at the end of the day, they foiled this, supposed ghost mystery that wasn't really a ghost situation. Right. So I think that it has a lot of layers to, I think our nostalgia with the show and that. But yeah, I just thought it was, I don't know. I thought it was a brilliant way to fit them into the story. And I clocked it as soon as I said, oh my God, this is an actual, Ted's like, what's going on? I'm like, this is an actual episode. I'm like, this is an episode. And I had to find the episode and then we had to watch it. I'm like, look at the house. Look at the people. Look at what's going on.
Yeah, I didn't clock that. Sandra had to tell me that in the last couple of years. She was like, it's an actual episode. I'm like, fuck, I could live the rest of my life without that knowledge. Not a Scooby-Doo, mate. Not a clue. Yeah.
What I think is interesting too is that Daphne being so oblivious to Dean, but then Velma being all about Sam, like that was just so great. And like her reaction to him. So would you approve of the Selma? Oh, yeah. Okay. All right.
Oh, yes. Okay. No, I'm very pro Velma and Sam.
Good.
Good. Within the context of the show, obviously Sam's not interested. And I think that's funny too, because Velma, you can totally understand why Sam is Velma's type. We know that Sam has a bit of a type as well. I think Velma's just a little too on the nerdy side for him. And he's too stuck on it's a cartoon, so like his mind is not even in that space.
Yeah, it's very...
He goes logical. The word Dean is like, nope, hey, we're going for it. Yeah.
Well,
no.
Dean,
they both, it's very meta though, because they're both like, no, it's a cartoon. So people are like, oh, Daphne was a teenager. Yeah, but Dean acknowledges that it's a fantasy cartoon. He's not like definitely going to bang this 17-year-old. I don't know how old, but how old are they supposed to be, people?
Well, it's indeterminate because they are just random teenagers. So but they're obviously on their own because they're just driving around the random countryside in a van. So,
so they've got the oldest has got to be at least 16 to drive.
Yeah, they always gave the impression, like, to me, they always felt like 17, 18, 19, somewhere in that range, maybe early 20s.
I feel like college kids, like I get that vibe of like early college kids. Yeah.
That's the vibe I was working with.
But the original series that they used is very, very vague about all of that because it's just not the focus of it. You know, it's just like, there is no romantic anything in the original in that series because that's not what it was about. It was about these teenagers who are friends that have a talking dog and they travel around solving mysteries. And that was as deep as it got.
I think it's because too, like I said, how much they sort of like threaded in little parts of like they've referenced Scooby-Doo many a time. And I think to have that then happen was just, again, a happy accident that all those things came together and there was an opportunity and they did it, I think was really, really special. I mean, like it's one of my, I don't know if it's in my top 10, but it's really, really up there. I'd have to go back and look. Based on
I think it definitely made your top when we were doing the group 10 to 15, 11 to 15 or whatever it was. Because I was like, you fucking what, mate? And I just really like it.
I was going to say, it would not hit in my top lists of episodes because it's its own thing to me. It's like in its entirely own category. And I love it for reasons that have nothing to do with the rest of the show. It's like the ultimate standalone.
Yeah. Like a bottle episode. You can just pull it out and be like, this is great. Yeah.
No, I think maybe I've learned here that I actually don't like meta episodes because I don't like fan fiction. I don't like ScoobyNatural. And I'm not all that taken on the French Mistake either. But and the only bit of the French Mistake I like is just in the very brief moment where they're like, that's fake me. This must be fake mine. Who puts a blah, blah, blah gallon aquarium in a trailer? I don't like the thing with Misha. I don't like the thing with Jen. I don't like that she leads Sam off at the end. That hurts my little fantasy soul. Where I'm like, I totally have a chance for Jared Padalecki. I don't. Not in my wildest dreams, but I'm like, no. And I don't want to make her a bitch, because she's not.
Right.
Like, she's a nice person.
Yeah.
There's like about 5 minutes of the French mistake that I'm like, that's really funny. And then the rest of it, I'm like, no, I like this. No, I like this. I hate fan fiction. Fucking hate that one.
Aww.
How about Monster at the end of the book, where they actually like introduce the fanfic, like, and they introduce Chuck and everything. Carver Edlund.
That one doesn't bother me.
But
as
the real
much.
Ghostbusters, you do not like because of
Hate
Becky. Yeah.
Oh, and I like Becky.
I like Monster at the end of the book. And I like Monster at the end of the book because I think it's a really, far more than fan fiction is, I think it's a really brilliant portrayal of how fandom brings people together.
I think it's a better, all around, I think it's a better episode. I love fan fiction. I like all the meta episodes, but Monster at the end of this book is just a superb episode of television. Excuse me, in general. And
also, I get to see Sam be Billy Badass at the end. That seals the deal for me. I could forgive all the Becky creep in that episode for, no, we have guns, we'll find you. No. Like, I can forgive that.
Oh, for like the real Ghostbusters, I think. Yeah.
The real Ghostbusters?
No, the real Ghostbusters at the end, because it's because Chuck says he might write.
Oh yeah, no, yeah. I've got them mixed up then. I've got them mixed up. I like the real Ghostbusters.
Even
if we exclude Becky.
Okay.
If we exclude Becky.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
okay.
it's Monster at the end of this book. I'm like, yeah, all right. But no, I like real Ghostbusters. I feel that's very kind to fandom. And the LARPing, the fake Sam and Dean, and
they're so cute. Oh.
And then, it's cute. And then at the end, and they're like, "No, we're partners, and we met, and this is." And I'm like, "Oh my god, two queer characters that got to live! Fucking hell!" Yeah. No, I don't mind Monster at the end of this book, but I don't really consider that a meta episode because it's before it goes fucking mental with fan fiction. It's still kind of in universe. Fanfic. The singing alone. God, I hate that episode.
So fan fiction,
musical episodes.
I know. We know you hate fan fiction. I know.
No. Please don't think this is it. Please don't think every other TV show I've watched.
No.
That has a musical episode. I'm like, oh, this is the tits. It's just the super. I hate musical episodes.
Really quick, we know Sam and Dean. What are some of your other favorite characters on the show?
I like all the characters. My next favorite, other than Sam and Dean, my next favorite's Bobby, because it's got to be Bobby, because Bobby is fabulous. But then I love Crowley. I love Rowena. I love Castiel as a character. I think he's fabulous. Like, I don't think the show always did the best things with him, but I thought what they did with him was always interesting, even if it was a little sad at times. But I like Cass, and I struggle to think of a character other than some one-offs. I think the only character that came back across more than one episode that I didn't really like was Cole.
That's does that have anything to do with what you found out later? I mean, I didn't like him to begin with. I thought he wasn't the best character, but then hearing more about
the guy
personally,
himself. No, because
oh no, wait, what's this now?
No, I'll tell you later.
Okay, cool, thank you.
But in general, that doesn't necessarily, because then we've got Mark Pellegrino.
Oh yeah,
there's problematic.
But
he was playing a character that works for me for. So I'm like, yeah, of course he was problematic. He was Lucifer, and the way he was playing Lucifer was problematic. So it all kind of fits. And maybe that was part of it with Cole, but I also just don't like. I didn't find him to be a sympathetic character. And there aren't very many characters on Supernatural that I don't find sympathetic. Because even Lucifer, who it's not like I never sided with him, but they still managed to make him. He's still sympathetic in some way that you understand where he's coming from. Even if you don't agree with why or where he got to with it. And Cole was just not, I just don't think he was a well-written character. which
No, that's interesting.
Yeah. But even like you mentioned, or before you mentioned Becky, I actually really liked Becky. She was obnoxious, and like, yeah, it was, like a little tongue in cheek dig at fangirls, of which I am definitely in the bucket that was being aimed at. But I never took it personally. I was like, we are all kind of Becky. That's funny, and I just moved on from it.
I'm fine to be Becky if she kept her fucking hands to herself. I'm totally fine to be the butt of the Becky joke and be like, oh, rabid fangirls. Yep. Keep your fucking hands to yourself.
Well, we talk about that in real life too. So, it's definitely, that crosses over a lot.
Be respectful.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I'm totally down to be mocked about writing kinky Wincest porn. I didn't want to be right. Like, that was terrible writing, by the way. I don't want to be right. I'm fine with that. I'm fine with, they're totally real. I believe it. Like, absolutely. I'm totally down with all that. It crosses a line when it comes to keep your hands to yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and obviously Becky is not a good role model with how to be. Like, there's the whole, season 7 Time for a Wedding. Like, obviously, she wasn't
Also
right in that.
Yeah.
But, I think the way that the character was handled, I enjoyed. Like, even when she was very problematic, I enjoyed her being problematic. So, like, that's kind of, I'm not overly picky about, the characters on the show.
Mm-hmm.
I was a huge fan of how Becky's arc resolved itself.
I mean, like, yeah, where she got to, I thought was really interesting. I thought they,
no,
I mean, you just like that she died, but
Kasey likes that she got stabbed.
I like that she died.
Well, but I thought it was interesting that they kept her around and they kept bringing her back, and like they let her kind of weirdly grow as a person. Yeah, I was like, this is so unexpected, but I kind of dig it. So
I do like. I was in for that. I was like, look, she's grown, she's matured, she's realized some things about herself. And I think she was an author, wasn't she? She was doing something successful with her life. Mm-hmm. And I was in for that. But still, it just couldn't excuse the sins of the past. And then she was snapped and I was like, fuck you. I'm a terrible person.
Oh, goodness. I'm going to switch around my questions because I feel like the way that we're going might be a little bit better. Can you talk a little bit about your journey in fandom over the years and how it's morphed and developed? I think this goes along the line because we haven't really talked about that your with the bibro thing that you enjoy Wincest and all of that stuff. So how did that sort of like happen? And did that happen right away? Like, and then like into fandom and kind of like where you're at now?
Right. So I only had a very ScoobyNatural is the first fandom I think I really felt like I was part of a community, like interactive community. Like I was into a lot of other shows. I am obsessive in my enjoyment of things, but and I have written fan fiction for, and not just touching on it real briefly, for 2 other franchises in the past, right? Before falling into ScoobyNatural, but I never really did anything with it. Like it didn't, it was just sort of like a dabbling thing.
Right.
And, but so when I fell into ScoobyNatural, I had been on Tumblr. I knew that there was a lot, by that point, I knew there was all this fan fiction out there. So when I started watching ScoobyNatural, I looked for fan fiction about it. I started off very much just exclusively looking at reader inserts. That's what I was interested in. That's what I read. That's what I wrote for a long time, was just reader inserts. And I didn't really get the whole shipping thing. In general, I only ship things that are basically canon anyway. But getting into ScoobyNatural, and you swim around in the fan fiction pool for a while, and it's hard to avoid Destiel and Wincest and like all of that because it's just everywhere, right? Yeah. It's the big popular thing.
Yeah.
And so I read a lot of the slash fic with it, and I kind of kept my opinions about it largely to myself for a long time because the Wincest thing, there's a roadblock I think we all kind of stumble with at some point to some degree or another, the fact that it's an incesty ship, they're brothers, and yeah, they are. so I kind of kept a lot of that to myself. But like Destiel, I just didn't get. I don't get the allure. Everybody always talks about, oh, the chemistry between them, and I don't really see it. No judgment on anybody who does. I hope they enjoy it. And I love watching people get really into it and run with it. It just doesn't do anything for me. And it wasn't until probably about 2 years ago, I finally just accepted the fact that Sam and Dean have a lot of chemistry. Jared and Jensen have so much chemistry, and it translates on screen so strongly. And it's the reason the show lasted for 15 years. You know, if it wasn't for the two of them, it wouldn't have. Plain and simple. The show never would have worked otherwise. It worked because they worked so well together. And they're so enjoyable to watch, no matter how horrible they're being to each other, or how wonderful they're being to each other, or whatever. They just work really well. I realized that I had been reading a lot more and more and more of the Wincest. And I was like, no, this is kind of where it's at for me at the moment. I just want to dive around and swim around with these two characters and all the different ways that we can make them interact, you know? So yeah, about 2 years ago, that shift happened. And then I just went public basically with it. I was like, I might as well just accept that this is my fate now.
You outed.
So,
you came out. You came out about it.
I did.
You know,
I did.
It's interesting. I think about 2 years ago might have been when I first started posting Wincest.
Yep, it
Yeah.
was.
It's an interesting conflict.
Well,
That's an interesting timeline there.
So funny enough, like I actually read Demonic Junkies, you know, obviously, you know, I've been reading along as you've been posting about it, but like, I started reading that before I ever even knew that y'all had the podcast. So,
Oh my God, really?
yes, I found that just because of how just the rabid amounts of Wincest I had been reading. And I read it and I commented on it and you responded and we had a nice little back and forth in the comments on the fic. And then it was sometime later, not a lot of time. It was probably within a month or 2 months or something like that. I'd finally gotten around to finding podcasts that work for me when I'm at work. And I've discovered that the sweet spot for me is I need to listen to people talking about something I already know about. And then I can do my work and listen at the same time.
Yep.
So Supernatural is perfect for that because I know it backwards and forwards. And so then it was just like I found a couple other rewatch podcasts. And then I found y'all's, this one, and I started listening. I was like, oh, this is great. And then at some point I realized, because you all mentioned Demonic Junkies, and I had a moment where I was like, oh my God, I've read that story and I've interacted with Kasey. This is amazing. So
Oh my gosh.
cool. Yeah.
That's so fucking cool. Oh.
Yeah.
I like those moments where it's like, oh, this is the person, because I've had those in fandom as well. And sometimes it's just because different usernames, or like you see somebody in another section, or like in the server. Like I've met a lot of writers that I followed through server, and like because their name is different, I'm like, oh my God,
You're like, that's you?
Hello, can we please talk to you, because this is amazing.
Right.
That's great. That's great. Yeah, it seems like it's like a being okay with it. And I know we'll get into it a little bit more, but I saw this on your Tumblr bio when I was like, pulling stuff. And I really wanted to dig into this a little bit because I feel like this is going to like maybe lean into some of the other questions. So you write, the only hill I'll die on is the difference between canon, headcanon, and Fanon. They are different words for a reason. So if it's the only hill you'll die on, explain.
Talk to us. I might be about to set up camp here.
All right. Okay. So as maybe obvious, like, I love talking about this show. Like it's become my main hobby. I really enjoy, and I like I like everybody's like meta conversation, like meta dissections of the show, little analyses of the characters and why this happened and what this might mean and all of that. I really, really enjoy all of that. But one of the things that I've noticed that people really kind of struggle with is this idea that there's a difference between what's canon and what is, because headcanon and Fanon are basically the same thing, right? It's just a headcanon is personal. Fanon is basically a headcanon that a whole bunch of people share. So whereas canon is what actually happens in the show, right? What the show says, what it shows us, and to an extent, how it says and shows those things, right? That's canon. It's like the facts of the show. And then all of the interpretations that we make of that, all of the the what ifs and the filling in of the gaps that we do, that's headcanon and Fanon, right? Because it varies from person to person. It depends on your own personal experiences, your own personality. It's an interpretation of the facts that you're seeing in the show. But I see people all the time muddying that up, whether they're doing it on purpose or just because they don't get the difference. I don't know, but like I see people saying, well, that's canon to me. And I'm like, okay, that's headcanon, dear. Like
that's not the same.
Right. And I'm like, and that's cool. Headcanons are perfectly fine. I know that I've gotten into this with people before where they've come back and they said, well, I don't like it being called a headcanon because I've had too many people saying, well, that's just in your imagination. You're crazy. Like to them, it translates to, you're wrong. And I'm like, and that's not right either. That's not what a headcanon should mean. It shouldn't be used to belittle anybody's thoughts or feelings about the show. But if we can't agree on what actually happened in the show, it's really hard to talk about the show. So that's why it's a hill I'll die on. And a lot of times it comes up with like some of the grayer areas where canon doesn't explicitly say something, right? Whether it's because maybe they weren't just spoon feeding us as an audience, they assumed we would jump to an obvious conclusion, so they didn't say it, or if it was an oversight on their part or something poorly communicated, it doesn't really matter. But there are some gray areas, like a great one. It's a hotbed topic, so I apologize. But the whole Dean Winchester being bisexual, right? That's not it's not that it's not supported by canon. It's not stated in canon. Like technically,
it's not.
It's not, right? Like they don't really the show presents us the sexuality for both of the guys without actually saying one way or the other, because I think it would be dishonest of us to approach the show from anything other than a heteronormative perspective for that. Like from the show creators' perspective, they assumed we would assume something, right?
Yeah, it was 2005. You didn't have bi guys on TV. You just about barely had gay guys on TV, and they were not treated well.
Yeah, so like making that heteronormative assumption that both guys are heterosexual, that's kind of, I think it's safe to say that's what the show assumed, right?
Yeah.
But so they didn't come right out and say it, but all they showed us was Sam and Dean hooking up with women, right? Like clearly they like women,
Yeah.
So I'm willing though, because canon never specifically calls it out, there is enough area to play around with, right? So
in that regard, for that one, would you consider that more of like a headcanon that maybe has become Fanon?
Yes.
Okay.
Like Dean being bisexual, I think is definitely Fanon at this point, because so many people subscribe to that particular interpretation. And it's not that it's wrong. It's just, like there's lots of arguments to be made to support it based on what we are given in canon. But so when people act though, like that's just the way the show was, then I'm like, hold up. No, like you can run with the idea, but that's not canon. And that's cool. So that's what that means. That's just me kind of being a little bit of a stickler about the words that we use when we talk about things. And part of it is, not to get too off topic, but like it's a broader problem that I've seen in the world, even about like the blurring of the line. Yes, exactly. The blurring of the line between what is a fact versus what is an opinion. And I see people every day that I don't think understand.
Yeah, don't understand it.
Yep.
Yeah. And that's why it rankles me, when I see it happening with this. I'm like, because canon is fact, headcanon and Fanon are opinions. And there is a difference between them. And it's important to defend those differences, not to gatekeep, not to put anybody's thoughts down, but just so that we can actually have intelligent conversations about it. But and so I know I've rubbed a bunch of people, like I get randomly blocked by people on Tumblr. And I think that's one of the hot buttons that I think has gotten me blocked by a few people, which is fine. Like I wholesale support people blocking people that rub them the wrong way on Tumblr. It's Tumblr. It's not important.
It's not real life.
It's not. It's really not. It should be a place that you can enjoy. So make sure you can enjoy it. I think that's one of the ones, because I do have a tendency to pop off on that sometimes.
Do you have any like personal examples of like for you like a headcanon that you think is just for you that isn't necessarily Fanon, if you're willing to share.
Well,
Right.
I think I don't know if I don't know where the line between headcanon and fanon is, because this one definitely isn't unique to me, but it's my favorite one, and it's that I think that Ben was actually Dean's son, and I have my reasons, but mainly it's just because it makes me happy to think that.
Yeah. But then doesn't it make you sad? Because then he got wiped.
Oh, sad things also make me happy. It's fiction, so the sadness.
She likes mystery spot.
I know.
I want to blow holes in your ship here, Jackie, but I think Kripke actually did give the final answer on that.
Oh, he did. Yeah. That's why I know it's not
headcanon.
Right. Okay. Good. Okay. Good.
Yeah.
Okay.
I also because that also brings up the, how much of the creators and the actors' views on things is canon. And I think it's like auxiliary canon, it's not what was actually aired. It's additional factoids that I'm much more easygoing with people picking that up and putting it down. It's just like in a recent convention, Sam and Dean, Jesus Christ. Jared and Jensen.
They were asked that question, right?
Right. That was the convention we went to. They talked about the soulmates thing and kind of cemented, because I thought it was canon. I thought it was very clearly laid out, but I've run into too many people that are like, that's what you got from that? I didn't think that's what that was at all. And I'm like, interesting. Okay. So for me, when they said that, I was like, cool. Yeah. See, and it just lends credence to what I think the show presented. But again, there's disagreement as to whether or not you should take an actor's take on their character as part of canon.
Because at that point, it's the actor's headcanon.
Right.
Too. And again, there's so much stuff that
this is about to get spicy.
We've talked about this. We've talked about how we feel the person that knows the character the best.
Right.
It is technically, it starts out with the writer or whatever, but if you've got a person who's lived with a character and who's been a character for 15 plus years, you kind of want to go with what the actor feels, but that still can be that person's headcanon unless it's explicitly stated somewhere. So I think this is where there's a divide between whatever people want to believe is, you're just going to lean one way or the other in a lot of different areas. And we don't have to get into the ones in particular that we know are there. We can, but then it'll get cut out. But that's the thing. Right. It's just like, when you hear Jensen, when you hear Jared, when you hear Misha, when you hear a lot of different people talk about their headcanon, that gets blurred into what's actually canon. And that's based off of how the fans, I think, are perceiving that. So,
I have to jump in. I'm sorry.
You can.
Please.
You can.
I'm sorry. I sat in my hands. I know. Right, okay. If the person who knows the character the best, we actually talked to another guest recently about this. I'm pretty sure I probably made it into the episode. So I'm going to cut this out if I'm not.
Well, I haven't gotten to editing it yet, but it's going to stay in. Yeah.
Well, don't cut it out, because then it's going to make me look like a fool.
No.
Yeah, no, we were talking to Nicole, who was a researcher. Listen to the episode. Go back and listen to it. It's great. And I had said that I view the final answer, the final line on something about a character, it belongs to Jared and Jensen.
Right.
And Misha, and but
whoever's character it is. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's the final line. So if Jensen says to me or to the fans, Dean is X because I played him that way, then that is the final line on that. And that then becomes canon to me.
Right.
Because if you say that even the actors' opinions are headcanon, then what is canon?
But
Casey, the whole house of cards falls apart.
Then you have to also take other things into consideration too. So yes, I agree. Like headcanon by the actors.
Do the clicky.
No. But what I'm saying is that it's headcanon, and then it can become canon. But to me, it's like the explicitness of it in the show too. So I get it. I get all that. But I also think that there's a lot of room in someone's headspace. There's going to be stuff that might conflict with what's actually canon. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying that.
Can you give me an example? I don't mean to put you on the spot. I'm really confused.
Well, and again, I'm hesitant to talk about this, and I don't think this is going to go
That's
in.
why I asked you to clicky.
No.
Because I was like,
I'll
clicky,
know.
so we
I'll
know where
know.
to cut this out.
Because I feel like I've heard this stated as that Jensen stated this somewhere, but I can't really find evidence of it. And so every time it's sort of mentioned now, I tend to not put it into an episode, where there was kind of like hints that Jensen had said something to the
oh, I thought you were going to go somewhere completely different.
No, about the possibility that,
Sex working is a...
like Dean had done whatever he could, to take care of Sam or whatever. And it would lend it into, possible sex work or something like that.
I know the quote you're talking about. I can actually link it to you if
But
you want.
is it
There you
actually
fucking go then.
But
Jackie knows everything. She's the archive of the internet.
But what I'm
I've
saying
been here
is
too long.
But what I'm saying is, like, even though somebody links it back to something, I feel like, and I've recently heard this happen, and this is why I think people should not do this at conventions. I think they need to know when to shut up. I've heard that somebody said something to Jensen that was in reference to that, and Jensen was like, "Whoa, no!" Like he had never said that. So now I'm like, does he just not remember? Has he now made this? Has he changed his own headcanon? And then how much can you believe of that if the actor who played it maybe felt something at one point and then changed his mind? So it's like, I don't know how much to take anything Jensen says. I know he believes that he knows his character, and I would never say that's not the case. But something he says could also change later.
Right.
So that's why I'm kind of hesitant to say the canon part of it, but not that I don't dissuade that what the person believes about the character is what the person believes, and that should be respected. But just that I don't know if it transfers over to canon. These boys have played them a very long time. They don't even remember what happened in different seasons. So it's more like the feeling and the spirit of the character.
The vibe of the character as opposed to the actual... chronological events.
But Jackie, did you get? I mean, I remember hearing about that happening recently too. So that makes me question the validity of that, or is it really because Jensen doesn't remember stating something like that, and maybe he's changed his mind on it?
Right. So I don't know, because I honestly I don't know the man's mind. Right.
Yeah.
Clearly,
yeah.
Right. But so the original quote was it was a printed article. It was like an Australian magazine or something interview, where what he had said, and just paraphrasing, was something like, Dean's a promiscuous guy who knows how he gets the money, right? It was something along those lines.
Yeah.
So he didn't say anything about sex work, but what he said seemed to indicate that sex may have been involved in something with that, right? So the fan base went, ooh, sex work, ooh, and it latched onto it as a fanon, right?
Yeah.
And then recently at a convention, somebody did ask him about it, but what she said was something along the lines of, you had said that Dean, when he was younger, would have been, done some sex work, and she used that terminology, which Jensen then balked at. And what I think is likely to have happened, one, Jensen probably does not remember that interview that he did. The guys talk about the show a lot, and they've been talking about it a lot for a long time.
Yeah.
But I think what he meant was more along the lines of,
oh, you could try, Jackie. Let's see.
well, actually I wrote a little blurby thing about it not that long ago.
Gotcha.
But like basically what I think it was probably like Dean found out that sometimes he can get money out of money or information, or he can get stuff out of people that he was probably going to have sex with anyway. And that's probably more where Jensen's mind was going with it. And it wasn't that he was doing
thinking
sex work, but that he had found a way where, like, sometimes he gets money from, or stuff from these situations.
Yeah.
My brain went a completely different way, and this is where Sandra shoots me. So the way I interpreted that is, he picks up a girl in a bar, goes back to her place, he shows her the night of her fucking life, and he robs her fucking blind before he leaves.
That's possible too. Yeah, I wouldn't say. Yeah,
that was there. Or if we're keeping it in the heteronormative space, maybe he flirts with a girl in a bar, offers her a game of pool, and hustles her. We only ever see him hustling guys, but that's not to say that he wouldn't hustle.
But that's how that one. That's how that one comment then gets exploded into Fanon. And so it's like, so then his headcanon for a brief moment becomes Fanon, but not necessarily like something that we could then,
not necessarily, it's been misinterpreted then what he actually said.
So that's kind of how I'm taking that part of it. But I would never say that Jensen doesn't know Dean better than anyone else backwards and forwards. And, you know, what he believes is canon, I would say, yes, is canon. But there's things sometimes that are stated that then if there's not enough follow-up on, or if there's not enough context, it's like a tulpa. It just goes and it becomes this thing that everybody latches onto. So, yeah, and that's why that was my thing.
Yeah, and that's why I consider that level of information to be sort of an auxiliary. It's like an appendix. It's an add-on to canon.
Yeah.
It's there. It's additional information, but I'm less of a stickler if people pick it up, put it down, whatever. But where I do get picky about it is if people like believe one actor's view on his character, but disbelieve another actor's view on his character.
Which one they're going to go with. Yeah.
Be consistent about it. I'm like, if you're going to pick it up and run with it, pick up all of it and run with it as well as you can.
But that is the nature of doublethink, isn't it?
Yeah.
That is the nature of doublethink. You have to be able to hold two simultaneous conflicting views and ascribe to whichever one fits your purpose at the time. Yep. Or just completely disregard one, even when it's dancing around in your face in blue jeans and go, no, that didn't happen. No.
Yep.
Does that clear up my thought on it, Kasey?
It does. It does. Yes. Yes, it does. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to be like, I didn't want to put you on the spot and be like, explain your position. But I was like, I genuinely don't understand what you mean.
That's just the one thing lately. And again, I think that's where fandom really needs to understand the respect that needs to get. Because if this kind of stuff, and I mean, it's been going on for years and years and years, but I feel like if this kind of stuff continues to happen, you know, they might be less inclined to talk about it. Like I felt like the question that happened at our convention, Jackie, about the soulmates was not as jarring of a question for them as what I had heard had been stated and the way it had been stated. Like, first of all, don't talk about fan fiction, because I think even that was a part of it or something. Like, I don't remember.
I was afraid it was going to be. When she first started asking that question.
Oh, no.
I know. I think we both kind of went, ooh, no. And then she asked the question, and the question actually was really nice. Like it was just a clarifying, you know, and she kept it pertained to the show. Right. Like she didn't go in the direction we were all afraid it was going to go in.
Yeah.
And then the guys answered it
in a really nice way. Yeah.
Nicely. Like, and they didn't even hesitate. It made me wonder. I'm like, did they prep an answer for this type of question? Because they handled it beautifully.
Yeah. And they usually like, oh, they didn't prep for this at all. Like, no, they really didn't think about this much.
How can you prep for questions of 15 years of TV? Freaking hell.
Okay. But this is my thing. You know, this is what bothers me is, you know, how rabid fans are. You know what you're stepping. It's like stepping into the lion's den, but not armoring yourself. It's like, you need to be prepared. You need to know these kinds of questions might come up. They're not, it's like going into a debate. You've got to get prepped for some of this stuff. Like, just remember, if this happens, go to this or shift to this or this. They don't have enough prep. They don't have people. I feel like they should have more people looking out for them.
I don't think they can.
Kinds of situations.
Because it would lose something. The fans would very quickly
it would come across as being.
But there's some stuff. There's some stuff that I feel like they should. We talked about that one thing where Jared just couldn't shut the fuck up, and then Jensen just kept like they were just digging themselves into a hole. So I mean, that kind of stuff. Like, it's like there wasn't
from my mind.
But again, like. That kind of stuff, the really like hot button, there are a couple hot button issues they know by now that I think there should be some prep for. That's just me.
I understand what you're saying, and especially that thing with Jared very quick after the finale, but the fans would so quickly pick up on the fact that they were getting coached answers. It would be really obvious, I think. And I don't think they would want that, because what they choose to put emphasis on and highlight based on the specific question that's asked or how it's asked
Yeah.
There's no way that you could prep for that without it just being a canned response. And I don't think they want that. I think the panels would lose something if they did that.
I just think for their benefit, sometimes I think they should, some things I think they should prep a little bit for. That's just me. Taking all that into account, I kind of wanted to go into this next phase of fandom for you, because I know, what is it that you kind of want to do to amplify like your voice, opinions, those of other like-minded individuals? And I know that there's something you're working on that kind of, I think, incorporates that. So tell us all about it.
Well, so as we were talking, that I found podcasts, particularly Supernatural rewatch podcasts and like your all's podcast, and listen to them at work and stuff like that. And while looking for those, right, like trying to find ones where, because it's very much a personality thing. Like some people click, some people are fun to listen to, some people just don't work for me. You know, there are a lot of rewatch I don't subscribe to Destiel, right? It's something like, again, I don't begrudge other people that enjoy it, but it makes me twitch. So I tend to avoid it myself. So, and there are a lot of rewatch podcasts that focus on it, you know, or get hung up on that particular ship. But there aren't really any that I have found that deal with the whole Wincest-y side of the show. And so I got talking to some of my other friends over on the Winchester Book Club Discord and put out a call, and I got several people that were interested. So we are working on trying to get going on doing a rewatch podcast, picking through the show, looking at the themes behind Wincest. So not necessarily, you know, like Wincest is weird because we're most, I mean, it is weird, but like
it is.
Where like most ships, it's just a matter of, but those two characters aren't together. So here you've got Wincest is both not canon and canon all at the same time, because it really just depends on what level of relationship you're talking about between them. The show kind of goes out of its way to establish the fact that Sam and Dean are codependent, emotionally enmeshed. They have they have a weird relationship.
Wincest is canon 100%.
100%.
How
like,
far past that it goes, yeah.
Right. Like Gencest is canon. Like it's not even, you don't even have to venture off canon to do that, right? You know, like, because the guys they're weird about each other. Like,
people tell them that. People say you're weird about each other.
Yeah,
it's
and that's the whole basis of the show as well. Like the show wouldn't work if they weren't weird about each other. Right. It wouldn't have been 15 seasons long. We wouldn't still be talking about it if they were just normal about each other.
That wouldn't be fun. So it's basically going to be me and a couple of other people. We're going to be going through, looking at each episode and basically picking apart all of those moments and references and the way that the show presents Sam and Dean and how that lends itself to people. Because, well, the worst thing about liking Wincest is being accused of horrible things in real life, which, you know, fiction is not real. Fiction is not real life. Fiction is fiction. We're allowed to like
fictional characters, guys. Fiction. I'm going to find a GIF of that.
Right.
Of real.
People constantly being like, oh, but they're brothers. And we're like, yeah, and the show is weird about them. So it's just kind of digging in and it's analyzing that. And it's also, you know, I want to be able to look at the show apart from Sam and Dean, because Supernatural is at its roots, it started off as a Gothic horror, right? And one of the big reoccurring themes and tropes in Gothic horror is incest, right? Because
we were talking about this. Yeah, I remember.
Yeah.
Is it?
It's the insular nature of that type of horror, that you're trapped in this little bubble that you can't get out of, and it's everything is corrupt and decaying, and it's very much an element of Gothic horror as a genre. And Supernatural played with that. Like there, you know, like several episodes where the idea of an incestuous thing occurring between other people in the episode, right, was brought up as a thing. You know, like there was the episode with the little kids that lived in the walls and in the basement, you know, that were the product of an incestuous relationship.
The Benders as well.
The Benders as well. There was the one, a later season one, where it turned out that the guy was like an Aztec god or something like that. But like there was a great scene where Sam and Dean were standing in the open closet doors in a bedroom, and they realized that the mother of the guy that died seemed to be sleeping with the guy. There was that weird scene. And there's moments like that are actually peppered throughout the entire show. And I personally find it fascinating. I'm not particularly squicked out by fictional incest. I find it to be an interesting element of the horror and the tragedy of it. And so and that's part of the thing with Sam and Dean is their story isn't a happy one. Like when you step back and you look at Supernatural, it's a sad story. Like there's a lot of good that we pull out of it, and it can be very uplifting and very affirming in a lot of ways, very inspirational. But ultimately, it's a tragedy. Like everybody dies. Everybody dies in Supernatural. Like nobody, because in life, none of us get out alive. Like, so it's just one of those things. So yeah. So we're working on that. I've done a lot of like kind of base prep work, and we are just working on scheduling a time that we can actually sit down and record. And I'm really hoping that we can do that soon. Once we get a couple of episodes recorded, then I might actually announce officially information about it. But I want to get something. Get something recorded before we get that far.
Well, by the time this goes out, who knows? Because we're a couple months, out of from when we record. It might already be there. We can post a link and stuff in the description.
We'll scream and shout about it anyway.
We will let you. We will do.
We'll scream and shout about it anyway.
And we'll expect to be asked on.
We will expect to invite as well. Yes.
Yay!
Awesome.
No, I think that's great. I also think, because you and I, we'd had a little bit of a conversation too, and again, this is generational, but I remember Flowers in the Attic growing up.
Yes.
And that was such not something that, kids or teens, I think, should be reading, but I remember reading it. And I remember it wasn't as, I guess, it was taboo, but it wasn't taboo in a way that was it just didn't feel so, I don't know, mind-blowing to people. They're but they're brothers. I'm but have you read literature at all, anything that's been coming out, it's there's a lot of this in Gothic literature that just it's a theme. And the isolation,
there's a lot of it in real fucking life as well.
There is.
That's the thing.
The history of incest as a theme in literature, in stories, goes back as far as recorded stories, as far as I know. You can go back to Greece, and you've got Oedipus. Oedipus is the classic example of that. That is a story about incest, the whole Oedipal complex. That's because, the guy killed his dad and ended up marrying and sleeping with his mom. That's how that story goes. And it was a curse, and it wasn't presented as a good thing. It was a tragedy, and that's, I want to go on record and saying Oedipus was not all right with this. He was not down to bang my mom. I'm pretty sure he killed himself. It was horrifying for him. Yes. As and I think that's the thing is with the current societal climate, there is very much this resurgence of this sort of faux purity, puritanical thing that we're seeing. And I see it a lot with the young people, and it's people losing a sense of perspective on the fact that fiction is not reality, that you are allowed to enjoy things in fiction that you would never want in reality. And then it's just this weird, I know in America, this is a really horrible problem, that we are 100% okay with violence, but sex is bad. And I'm this is insane. It's not even arguably, it's literally just an insane response to think that media that presents, massive amounts of just, flippant killing of people can almost escape without a blink of the eye. You've got the popularity of the John Wick movies, which I love. They're so much fun. So many people die. It's just constant killing people. But you mention a fictional concept, that's sex related, and people freak out. And so I don't know. It's just, I'm enough of a shit stirrer that the idea of pushing back against that, I guess, is part of the motivation for me. It's something that I get why people don't like Wincest. People that are squicked out by it, I get it. I'm not though. And I should be allowed to enjoy it. So
I know you've already named your podcast, but I would be so tempted to call it "The Revolution Will Be Podcasted."
We have already named it. That was a whole process in and of itself. But
we found it really helpful to nick on the name from a friend who had already named something different, and then go, "Wait, can we borrow this for podcast?
Can we use this, please?"
Well, the first name we tried actually turned out to be something else was named, and I actually reached out to them, and I was like, "Would this be weird if we ran with this name?" And at first they were like, "No, I don't think that'd be a problem." And then they came back like pretty shortly thereafter. They go, "Actually, that would be a little weird." I was like, "Fair enough. We'll come up with a different name."
Gotcha.
So,
Gotcha.
now I actually put a little video out on Spotify just so I could stick my finger on the name that we've settled on.
Right.
So that nobody else snags it out from under me before we can actually get something recorded.
That's good.
So,
well, good. I think it's good.
Yeah. Like, I don't want to, we're running, I'll just say what the name is for now. And if it changes, it changes. But for right now, it's the epic love story of Sam and Dean.
Okay. So
good. Because it fits.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And surprisingly, nobody else has used it. So I'm like,
that's unique URLs are your friend when it comes to getting social media handles and shit like that.
Yeah.
You want that.
Probably going to have to go with an acronym for that because it's really, really long. And as somebody with a really long URL on my Tumblr and my AO3, I will shorten it because it's a lot to type out.
How many, just out of curiosity, like when you were doing your research, like are there, I mean, I know of another one that focuses more on J2 and Wincest, but are there any other?
It's not a rewatch though.
No, are there any other like just podcasts in general that kind of talk about Wincest?
I don't know. I couldn't
find it.
I'm kind of scattershot when I research things. So if there are more, I would love suggestions on it.
I haven't found any that I can.
Okay. Because I hadn't. I hadn't really, like, I
think we're adjacent, but not.
You are, because you guys fall into more what I consider to be just like pro ship, like, and not in any bad, but in a, it's a ship and let ship attitude, which I love. Like, again, SDL is not my thing, but I don't want anybody to ever feel bad about liking it. Like, it's a fine ship. If it works for you, go with it.
And I think as long as there's an understanding from that person that ships, that they have the same pro ship attitude, it doesn't really it becomes more of an issue. And again, I think because of how we approach it, I don't think we would necessarily get a lot of people that are heavily, hellers. Right? Is that the term? I don't think we would get those people here to talk because I think, again, there would be such a division.
You all are too supportive of Wincest in general. That would be off-putting. It's the stupid ship war thing has just gotten more and more divisive.
Yeah. I will say though, the way that Sandra came up with this was looking for supernatural podcasts and finding pretty much exclusively SDL and going, well, I want something for me, something that focuses on reader insert. So if you're a SDL shipper, they're out there. You're covered. We're trying to fill niches here, people. We're trying to fill niches. You're out there.
Yeah, I think that's great. I really do think that. I mean, just from what I've seen in the different like communities that I've sort of like adjacently been like pulled into and now I'm a part of, I know that there's so much interest and discussion, about the boys in general that I think it's gonna fill a nice spot for that. So I think that's great. I think that's great. And good luck. And if anything changes, we'll update, we'll put things in descriptions and stuff like that.
Yeah.
That's great.
Well, with any luck, we'll have something recorded before this hits, and then everything will just click right into place.
Good.
Yeah. Don't worry about it if you don't know, because we'll still be hollering about it on social media and in the Discord and all that good stuff.
Yeah, that's because you guys are awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Now, I selfishly want to do this because what we normally do, we talk about these. We talk about conventions that I've gone to. Casey's talked about their convention that they've gone to, and normally what we would do is like, because I've gone to a few DC cons by now, that we would have had like a breakdown about my experience. But because I was able to experience it with you, I really wanted you to talk about your like first time and all this thing and like how it happened, how you thought you'd never do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All those kinds of things. And like, how long had you watched the conventions? Like, when did you find out about the conventions being a thing, even within the fandom?
So that was pretty close to the beginning of when I fell in. And I can't remember if it was, I don't remember exactly what year, whether it was 2015 or 2016, because time has no meaning. But it was somewhere.
Lunchtime doubly so.
Yeah. It was somewhere towards the beginning. And, you know, I live in the general DC area, right? So DC is local-ish for me. And I've got a friend who lives over in Northern Virginia. I can remember after I fell into the fandom, I was visiting her for a weekend, and it happened to be a weekend that the DC convention was going on. I had kind of found out about the fact that this was a thing that was actually happening, and it was happening, you know, less than an hour from where I was. And it was very distracting to me. I was talking her ear off. She's a really good friend. She's a Sam girl, by the way. But I was talking her ear off about it, and she thought I was being cute but crazy, like normal. But I distinctly remember I was like, oh my God, that's like right there. That's not even, it's not even something I got to really travel for per se, you know? The DC area is weird because there's like a whole large radius that's all just part of DC as far as everybody in the area is concerned. So, so pretty early on. And then over the years, I'd just be like, there's another DC con. It's like right there. It also happens to fall usually in the September range. So it's always like somewhere near my birthday. So I'd always, every time I'd be like, birthday present to myself. But then I'd look at the prices and I'd go, no, I can't justify the expense, and I wouldn't go. And I was doing the same thing earlier this year. Like when the DC Con tickets kind of went up for sale, I was already talking with you guys. I was on Discord, I think at the time, and we were talking about it, you know, because I was kind of like, I've always wanted to go, but I can't justify the expense. Then
I 100% will have been on record as going, fuck it, go, Jackie, go, treat yourself.
So I kind of once again resigned myself to just not going. And Sandra, being the darling that she is, had offered to maybe see if she could work out. Because I'd said one of the things I would want to do if I ever got to go to a convention was I've had a 45 of Survivor's Eye of the Tiger that I got for my 8th birthday that I've had ever since. I still have it. It still plays. I've kept it in remarkably good condition. And it's weirdly always been one of my little prized possessions, you know, like I love it. I always have. I remember I drove everybody in my family crazy with that record because I played it all the time. But so I thought it'd be cool because it's in like a white paper sleeve. If I was going to go, I would want to get Jensen to sign this because it doesn't add any value to the record, like monetarily. It would just be for pure sentimental value for me to make this thing that I already love just that much more special. And Sandra had even said, well, maybe like if you can't go, like maybe, you know, like we could meet up and I could get it signed for you. And I thought that was an amazing offer, particularly since we really only known each other just briefly at that point.
Sandra is a delight.
She is. But I was kind of at the same time going, but it wouldn't be as special if I wasn't the one getting it signed, right?
Yeah,
Like,
of course.
Right.
You know, that's part of it. So I wasn't going to go through with it. But then at some point it was getting up on convention. It was like
It was in August. Yeah, because I got the news that, you know, my husband needed to have back surgery. And lo and behold, it was going to happen right before the convention, and he was going to go with me. And I just looked at him. I got, well, guess I'm going to the convention by myself. Because
that's what happens after a decade of marriage. You're like, that's unfortunate. I'll be thinking of you. Bye.
Right.
Yep.
So instead of, I think I was talking to Kasey, and I was like, I was thinking about, I'm going to wait. I said, maybe I'll like, you know, post it on Twitter or whatever, or one of the Facebook groups or whatever about it to see if I get some help. But then something in my mind was like, Jackie, I said, let me put it in our server first before I put it. Cause I don't know. I was like, maybe I just had a feeling you might look at it and be like, So yeah.
Sandra
and
is
I did.
The bestest.
I think I saw it like as soon as you posted it. I think I was at work or something. And I was like, oh God, okay. Yeah. And I'm not normally an impulsive person. I don't usually make purchases impulsively, but I was like, I have a birthday coming up. So I messaged Sandra and I was like, double check, just, like, hey. And then I reached out to actually my parents because, I was like, hey, have you all gotten me anything for my birthday yet? And my mom was like, no, why? And I was like, okay, cool. Here's an idea. And she was totally on board with it. They know I'm crazy and they support it. So they were willing to cover the cost of the ticket, which made it doable for me because then I was only looking at paying for my hotel room and paying for like the autograph or, any add-ons that I wanted to do. So I reached out I was like, Sandra, I'll take it. And then proceeded to drive myself to the brink of anxiety as I was trying to figure out like, okay, like how many nights am I going to spend at a hotel in DC? Like, can I justify it? Am I driving? Am I taking the metro? Like, how am I getting over there? And like, just the logistics of the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
You are a lady after my own heart though, Jackie, which is buy the tickets, figure it out afterwards. Yes.
Well, yeah. And again, it was too
exactly
close.
what I did.
Yeah. It's like just too close not to just go with. And, again, I justified it by any means necessary, but it happened to be like, I turned 50 this year. So that was like a big birthday. Mm-hmm. So I was like, and when I told my husband, and, I feel a little bad, he doesn't watch Supernatural. I encourage him not to watch Supernatural. I don't think he would enjoy it, to be perfectly honest. I don't want to listen to him criticize it. So I was like, just don't watch it.
Yep. This is not for you, babes.
Right.
You go. Yep.
And so when I mentioned it to him, at first he was like, I could tell he was like, oh, we're going to go do this. And I was like, no, I'm going by myself. I was like, the only reason I'm doing this is because a friend of mine, she has a ticket. Her husband can't go. So she has a ticket. So if I buy the ticket off of her, then I'm going with somebody I kind of know, with the opportunity to get to know her better. And we'll just do that. And I was like, and I don't really want my husband witnessing me being a complete fangirl at a convention. I was like, that doesn't work for me. So it was exciting, like the whole metro thing turned out to be more of an adventure than I'd planned. I should have been able to take one train all the way there. And the MTA did not cooperate with that. So it was like a whole little like transfer adventure. Mm-hmm. But, I'm braver than DC. So I made it.
I love that.
And you also were able to, you made connections with people you already were talking about with the podcast. Yes. You actually found out they were going to be there as well. So, right. I think you were thinking of, I could justify this even more because now I can actually like talk to the people in person that I need to about like, see how the vibe is and see how everything's going to go. If this could be a thing kind of a situation. There was with that. And there were a couple other people that I've just known for a while. Like, and I was really excited to meet Michelle, Mrs. Susie Whatsits. Yeah. She and I have been like Tumblr mutuals probably for 8 years. Like this is just somebody that it's always weird with online friends because you're like, I've known them for 8 years. I haven't really known them, but it's just somebody that's like in my orbit that we've interacted, over this shared interest for a really long time. And so I was like, oh, I'll get a chance to meet her finally. That'll be cool. Yeah. And it was nice, like this, getting to sit and actually talk with other people that are as into this thing as I am is delightful. Yeah. And then being able to see, the people that actually help make the show, the faces of all of these characters, that we love so much, and getting to meet Jensen and Jared. And then Sandra did an even better. So anyway,
Sandra is the bestest. My bestie is better than everyone else's bestie.
She really is. She really is. Because so Sandra had already planned going and had planned to go with her husband and had done like this stuff and had bought some photo ops because I wasn't going to justify buying photo ops. Like I got a photo op with the car because I was like, that's $25. I can do that. And I got the autograph. I did get my record signed by Jensen. And it now lives in a very nice little shadow box display on my wall, so that I can stare at it and just go, where it'll stay safe. We should probably talk about that too, though. Like he was extremely.
I was going to say, did he have?
He was exhausted that day.
Oh, I wasn't going to be sad about it. I was going to be like, did he say anything about the record? Did he like?
But he was exhausted.
So I had been kind of toying with how I could present it. Like, and be like, I've had this record for 42 years. Please sign it, And I was trying to, I was thinking about how I was going to say that. And then I knew that he had an insanely long day. Like the simple fact that the guy was filming until like 3 a.m. and then flew out to the East Coast to be at the convention and was dealing with all of us crazy fans, I thought was wonderful of him in general. Like, I know he's paid for it, whatever. But
but money is not, there is a cost balance between money and your health and mental health. So I'm not retracting my previous statement, but Jensen's besties have the best bestie.
Yeah. But like,
I have the best bestie of normal people, right?
It's non-celebrity people. Yes.
Yes.
Although you guys, I don't know, maybe someday. But but so when it came right down to it, it was like 6:30 that night, I think, when we were doing
it. Might have even been a little bit later by the time we got there, because we were like we were at the end, because it was the a la carte autographs.
Yeah. They keep going that late?
Oh yeah. When they're behind, or
that isn't standard for it to be going that late.
Well, it seems to be now. It is, though. It just seems like no matter what, there's something that's always pushing it behind a little bit too, and it was already behind
because of when he flew in. He had a reduced amount of time, I think, to be able to do all of the things that he was supposed to be doing at the convention. So it just shoved it. But so when it came right up to it, it was my turn, and I had been. So and he looks, and the man makes eye contact with you, and it's already, it's good eye contact. And my brain just went, fuck it. Just say thank you and smile. And so I passed it over, and it was kind of dark, like in the corner where they were doing the autographs. There wasn't like a bright light, and the record itself is kind of dark. So I don't even know if he knows what record he signed.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he may have looked at it. He may not have. I don't know. But he signed it, and he made eye contact, and he was smiled at me, and he's gorgeous. And my brain just went, and I took it, and I said, thank you. And I walked away, would he have gotten a kick out of knowing how long I've had it? Probably. But was it necessary? No, it wasn't. Because ultimately I was getting it signed for me.
I was behind Jackie in line, so I got to see how deer in headlights she was for a very, very brief moment. And then she's like, And I thought it was cute because we were talking about it after, and the people at Creation were ushering us to keep.
They're like, keep walking.
Get out of the area, get out of the zone.
You don't got a fucking minute, do you? They're like, get out, leave. Yeah.
Well, and I know everybody has said it. Everybody has said it for years, and I've heard them saying that he's better looking in person somehow, and it's true. And I don't know how it's possible, and it's definitely not fair. But the man is better looking in person, somehow.
Yeah, and I do be that way. Yeah. Some people have ethereal qualities that cannot be captured by camera.
Yeah,
it's like a real life Insta filter. I don't know how it works.
Bastard! I want a skincare routine. That's what I want. I already know Jared's haircare routine, and unfortunately, it's not a haircare routine I can keep up with. Right. I want Jet's skincare routine.
I think it was Saturday, Jackie, that I asked you if you'd wanted to.
You did.
Okay.
Yeah. Sandra was a dear, and she, at one point, we were sitting there, I think it was between panels, and she mentioned, she's like, I've got this J2 panel or photo op that I paid for, and you're allowed to bring somebody with you with that one. And my heart started I was like, yeah. She's like, would you be, was that something you would be interested in joining? I was like, yes.
Can I just say as well, that will be exactly how Sandra phrased that. She's the politest fucking person.
I was like, yeah, and it's funny because I did travel really light. I didn't bring anything with me. I pack so Spartan, and I was spending one night is what I finally decided. I had a hotel room just for Saturday night. I had one messenger bag, a little messenger bag too. It's not even a laptop sized one. And I fit everything.
Oh, Jackie, you're killing me. I had to bully her into a suitcase.
And I had everything in that one bag.
I did need it. Yeah.
I also I had the room for one night. I couldn't check in until after a certain point, and I had to check out before a certain point. I was like, everything I bring with me, I'm going to be carrying around all day Saturday, all day Sunday. There's no way to avoid it. Yeah. And I took the metro in, so I didn't even have a car to put things in. So I was like, I got to go light with this, just for my own comfort. So like, I didn't have any like hair care stuff or anything. So she tells me on Saturday, and the whole time I'm like, just don't sweat it. If your hair is weird the next day, you have a photo with yourself with weird hair the next day, and it'll be fine. And it was fine because, can we talk? Are we?
Yeah, go.
Okay.
I want to hear it from your
I want to hear all of
perspective.
it.
So
This is the fun part.
No, it's a thigh.
we're watching. Oh my God. So in my notes, because Sandra, you sent notes about questions, and like I made notes just to make sure I like knew what I was going to say, so I didn't like
Why is everyone that
anything
comes
you
on this
asked me.
fucking podcast more prepared than I am?
Anxiety. It's anxiety.
So many people come on and they're like, I have pages of notes, and I'm like, I looked at the document 5 minutes ago.
Those are good things. Those are good things. Absolutely.
Well, you
proud of
live,
y'all.
Casey, you live here. It's like coming into your house. You know where everything is, so it's fine. But so my note for this is literally just all caps, one sentence, and I'll explain this. But his thigh pressed up against my leg. That's all it says.
That's a very important moment in your life.
It was a very important moment. So, the time comes, for the J2 photo ops, and, we're watching the screen where it's announcing, like what group of people can go, and when they finally get to us, we get up and we go and we get down the escalator into the little area where, into the long ass line. And the whole time we're talking and, just sort of like moving along. And I'm trying to keep myself in. I do customer service work. I'm used to being in front of people. So there's like a mode that you can switch into. Yeah. That kind of, it makes it easier to do stuff that otherwise my social anxiety would prevent me from doing. Right. So I kind of was in that mindset for a lot of them. And playing it cool. We passed by a mirror. I kind of looked at myself. I was like, the hair is what it is. It's fine. Everything is fine. And, Sandra had mentioned, like getting hugs. So we were just going to go with that. And she was so sweet too, because this is a J2 hug. And I know Sandra's a Dean girl as well. Jensen's her guy. And she let me hug Jensen. She's like, I can hug Jared. I don't think you had a picture of you. Had you done an op with Jared?
I did one with Jared the last time I had done a hug, but this time it was just I had one with Jensen and then I had the J2 because I was intending to hug Jared anyway and then like get in like on the sandwich situation where like probably Jensen would hover uncomfortably over the both of us in that thought, and I was like, but this made more sense, like because I know you would want to hug Jensen. I mean,
again, my bestie is the best.
And I had already done my Jensen op, and which I'll talk about too, because you helped that out immensely. But yes, continue. You were looking at the hair.
This was also Sandra's Jared hug, because the last time Sandra hugged Jared, it wasn't for her.
Yeah.
So this was
for you, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So no, she very magnanimously offered to let me hug Jensen, and then asked if I wanted to, which cracks me up. I'm like, yeah. But so then we wait through the line and we get all the way through, and you're only like 2 to 3 people back from your turn before you can actually see them, right? Mm-hmm. Like the way they had it set up. And again, my brain was just like, just act normal, act cool. They are just people.
You should preface this also with, when you did the autograph, he was sitting. So you were like, there was no height thing happening in this situation before this.
Now, I'm a little more immune to the height difference because I know how tall he is. And my father and my father-in-law are both about that same height. Mm-hmm. I have cousins that are actually taller than Jared. Right. So, or I should say a cousin. I have one cousin that's taller than Jared. My other cousin is taller than Jensen, but I have my 2 closest cousins are 6'2" and 6'6".
Wow. Mm. How tall are you, Jackie, if you don't mind me asking?
I used to be 5'6", but I think I've shrunk a little bit. And I think the last time I got measured, I was only like 5'5" and a half.
Sandra says that.
I'm 5'4" and 3/4 if I really want to push it, but that's about it. I'm probably more like 5'4" now, but I used to.
Fractions matter at this point.
It does.
That's so interesting to have somebody say the height difference didn't
Well, wait now.
It didn't shock me. No, just because, like, when I met Jared, I know he's tall, but when I met him, he didn't feel to me like the giant that until he hugged me, and then I was like, oh no, wait, here it is. Wait, no, fucking hell. But upon first meeting him, I was like, oh, he's just a normal height. But my husband is 6'2". My dad is 6'2". Like, I've been surrounded by tall men my whole life, and I'm tall.
Yeah.
So that's interesting.
It makes a difference.
I feel like maybe that did not translate to when you saw him stood up. So please continue.
Okay. Well, and then the time comes and we walk up. And again, I credit all of this to just a lifetime of being able to just go on sort of weird autopilot. And smile at people and say things and go through motions that otherwise my brain would not be able to process, right? And it's just working with customers and the public and whatnot. So our turn comes, and at this point, I lost all track of Sandra and what was happening with her in the slightest. I apologize, Sandra. You really dropped off my radar.
You were not supposed to know anything that was going on outside of your little bubble at the time.
Because
honestly,
when we walked up at them from like their right, and Jensen was the closest, and then Jared was the one that was a little further away, right? Mm-hmm. So when we walked up, I walked straight up to Jensen. Right. So Jensen was first, Jared was further away.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I walked straight up to Jensen. And again, with the eye contact, like even thinking about it, I'm getting all flustered and sweaty. And he makes really, really good eye contact.
Put that on your CV, Jensen. I know you're listening. Makes really good eye contact. Well done.
So slight tangent, but you know how everybody is always like, you know, with the whole thing where, well, they looked at each other and it was like they were eye fucking, or they've got such great chemistry, and it's, oh, just look at the way he looks. I'm like, Jensen's just like that. I think he looks at everybody like that.
I really do believe that. Like he could have chemistry with the tree. Like he could.
Yes.
Like he could just
It's very
It's
Is
amazing.
it just very intense eye contact?
It's not that, I don't know if it's intense.
It's not intense. It's intimate feeling.
Yeah,
like,
he's in the moment with you. Like that's
oh
the thing.
no. My the hairs on the back of my neck are standing up. My autism is running rampant, going, don't look at me. Oh, that makes me so uncomfortable. I would hate that.
But he's in tune. And so is Jared. Like I think they're both really, but again,
I don't remember if I made eye contact with Jared. I might have done. Do you remember?
But Jensen is so pretty that when he's making eye contact with you, it's very good.
Put that on your CV, Jensen. Excellent eye contact.
I'm sure it probably is. I don't know.
Situationally appropriate.
I think it is. I wouldn't be surprised if it isn't. Yes. Yep.
It's funny. Literally, my hands are sweating. I'm sitting here, but
we're having the most different reactions. All the hair on the back of my, like, I've got chills going down my spine. I'm like a cat that's just seen its reflection in a mirror. And all its hair puffs up like, oh God, don't look at me. Sorry, Karen. You could be over here trying to calm my fucking system down.
So I walk up and I'm looking up because he's tall, you know. And my brain is effectively blue screening. Like,
yep.
But I walk up and I knew we were going to do hugs, and I knew Sandra was taking care of her side of things. So I looked at him and I smiled, and I think this is what I said. I don't even really know for sure, but I think you don't cover that for her, Sandra?
What?
Will you not just Sandra, like, can we have hugs?
I don't know. I don't know what Sandra said. Everything disappeared.
No, what we agreed upon, Jackie, as we were in line, I was like, so I'm going to go up to Jared, ask for a hug, and you'll go up to Jared, and you'll go up to Jensen and ask for a hug, and we'll do that.
Oh, right, okay.
This was a situation where we didn't even get to talk to the person. The person didn't ask us what we want. We had to go up to them and do it, because I was noticing people were just going. They weren't even asking. They were talking directly. They were talking directly to Jared and Jensen about what they wanted to do. So I was like, okay, I guess so. Hug, right? We're gonna do. You're gonna hug Jensen. I'm gonna hug Jared. Yep. And honestly, like Kasey, in this situation, I just beeline straight to Jared, because I was like, if I stop and look at Jensen, I
It's all over. It's going to be me and Jackie wrestling for the right to hug him. Yeah, all right.
We'd get caught in the same trap. So
I just went, the eye tracking was not, it was,
intimate eye contact.
I was going to like tractor beam into him and that could not happen. So I just went around him. I just went straight to Jared. Yeah.
So
Jared, I know you're also listening. I still love you.
Oh no, I wanted a hug and I was like, yeah, I was like, can I have a hug? Yeah.
If I'd looked at your on-screen brother, I would have forgotten you existed. Doesn't make it any better, Sandra. It's like when people come on and go,
that's
not
Sandra's fault. That's not our fault. That's not our fault. It's just not. It's just not our fault.
And Jared knows.
That makes everything worse.
No,
That makes everything worse because now I'm imagining a Jared that's just like fucking never compete.
No, he was loving
loves me
it.
like
He
they
loves
love
it.
him.
He loves it. He's a sweetheart. He's a sweetheart.
No, nobody loves Jensen more than Jared in a platonic.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. But so I walk up to Jensen and I'm I'm doing my best. I hope I was smiling. I felt like I was smiling. And I said, hug? As a question, like one word. And he looked at me and, he's just lovely. And he went, hug? Like to verify. And I said, a hug. And he pulled me in. And he said, okay. And he pulled me in and we hugged. And all literally the blue screen in my brain momentarily flashed out to his thigh is touching your leg. And it wasn't just like, it was part of his inner thigh was pressed against my leg.
I'm surprised you registered that. How did you even register anything like that?
Because that's a very intimate part. Yes.
I don't think I would have registered it.
I don't it literally imagine in a movie when the camera zooms in on an object that's going to be important. It felt very much like that. My brain just went, his leg is contact. And I have no sense memory of the hug itself. That's the other funny thing.
Okay.
My hands were touching the man. My hands were touching the man. And I have no concept of what that felt like at all. My brain just went, his thigh is touching yours. And I did my best to smile in the direction of the camera. And Schmelke took the picture and we turned and we're like, thank you. And he smiled and I smiled. And as I was turning to walk away, Jared, the absolute darling, got my attention. He went out of his way to get my attention to say hi, which I thought was lovely. And so, of course, I beamed at him and I was like, hi, whatever, while trying to also walk away and not trip over anything. And then as we were walking away, the photographer was like, I need to do a reshoot. Right. But we were already walking away.
Yeah, we didn't know what was going on. And then all of a sudden it was like, I'm like, oh, did we do something wrong? Oh, are we in trouble?
I don't know. We booted out of the convention center. Fuck.
Right. And he's like, reshoot. And it took him a couple times to get through the fog, I think, in both of our brains. And then we went, oh, okay. But the next people were already posing at that point. So we went around behind the little photograph, the photographer stand with all the lights and everything.
Because I think it was really the handlers that I don't actually remember. I remember him turning over, but I didn't register what he had said, but he didn't look happy about something. I think that's where I got a little.
He was looking at the screen on the back of the camera and he was like, I got to do a reshoot. And and I figured I probably blinked. And it turned out I think I did blink because I do that with photographs. I'm horrible at blinking in photographs, but so we both kind of went, okay, oh darn, we got to go.
We have to go get this again.
Oh no, not a second hug for free.
That has never happened to me. So Jackie was like, Jackie, whatever we did.
Jackie was your good luck charm.
Yeah, we did it.
So the trick to getting a reshoot is to take a buddy with you who is going to blue screen so completely about Jensen's thigh touching their thigh that they're going to blink when the photo is taken. That's crack the code, guys. That's what you need. You need a Jackie.
Yes, you gotta somehow replicate that. But so we went around and basically you get to cut back into the front of the line. But there was a couple of people that went between us because the photographs moved very quickly. And so we went back around and they told us we needed a reshoot. They're like, okay. And so we go back up. So again, she went towards Jared. I went towards Jensen and I walked up. I was like, a hug again. And he went, what? And blinked at me. I was like, we have to do a reshoot. And I know I said that time. And he went, oh, okay. And again, pulled me in. I think the pose was like, for me, was exactly the same. I think was standing in the same way. His thigh again was pressed against my leg, but this time my brain was going, keep your eyes open. So the smile wasn't as good, but the eyes were actually open on the second go around. And again, when I was leaving, Jared said hi. And I said, thank you again, you know.
He's such a fucking sweetheart. So did you like frame the jeans you were wearing that day?
No, I didn't. I think I'm actually wearing those same jeans today.
Oh, good.
Oh, wow. Good. I've got to say, I haven't worn the shirt that I wore to hug Jared in. I haven't worn it since.
Do you ever feel the phantom thigh?
Oh, yes. Like, well, and then looking back, because like, obviously my brain focused on it, right? To a point of distraction. And it wasn't until we got the photos and I really looked at the photos and I was like, oh yeah, no, if you look at this, because he and I were both wearing jeans, and jeans are great because there's an obvious seam on the inside and outside edge of the jeans. So it makes it kind of easier to see what part of the leg you're looking at. And it was part of his inner thigh to the front of the inner seam, the inseam, you know, like, but it was that part of his leg that was pressed up against mine. And yeah, that's going to carry me for a really long time.
What did you do for your 50th birthday, Jackie? Well.
And, you know, maybe I have spent way too many hours obsessing over the man and his thighs in particular, which is a part that tends to get flailed.
That makes sense. Yeah. That definitely makes sense.
He's got nice legs. So,
you do.
Yeah. I think that's part of why it was so distracting.
I think, Kasey, you and I were talking. I had some ideas for my Jensen photo op. I was going to try to do a tango thing, and I was talking to Jackie about it. And I was basically said, you know, I love Jensen. I do. I said, but sometimes he doesn't smile. And sometimes you just want him to smile. I said, you know, for mine, I was like, should I just ask him to smile? I'm like, but that kind of, Jack said, well, I don't know if you want to like, you know, give him direction like that. But she suggested, she's like, can you give me a Dean smile? I was like, yes. I was like, that's perfect. That was something I could ask him. And then as I was going up for my Jensen solo, I was noticing a couple other people were asking to hold his hand. And I was like, okay. All right. So I was putting two and two together. I was like, all right, okay. Ask him, you know, over the hands, holding hands, and can you give me a Dean smile? So went up to him again. He's lovely to look at. And I was just like, just remain focused. Remember what it is you need to ask.
Right.
And so I was like, you know, can I get an over the shoulder hand hold, and can you give me a Dean smile? And he seemed to just like that registered, that clicked. He could do that. That was an easy thing. So I remember this is where my brain blue screened, because I remember he put his hand, like I could feel his arm over my shoulder. And then I turned and I saw his hand just waiting for me. And I was like, I have to hold that.
Oh, what a tragedy. Oh,
I know.
No.
So I was like,
someone come save Sandra from having to hold Jensen's hand.
So I was like,
oh,
okay.
No.
But I did the thing, you know, I got to thread through those nice big hands and those fingers, and I smiling my heart out, and he smiled back. He gave the Dean smile. There was a little bit of tongue right behind the teeth in the back. And I was just like, So I was like, if Jackie hadn't given me that, I don't know if I would have like asked him, because again, like it felt weird, but like it's what I wanted, but I didn't know how to get that from him without saying, you know, I know you're probably exhausted because you smile for me. Right. Like that's probably not going to work, you know?
And I think, you know, like going through life, how often if a guy walked up to me and said, smile, it pisses me off because it's happened a few times.
Oh, I know that.
I'm like,
yeah.
But so like in my head, there's always that worry. Like, I know that it's a photo op. We're paying to have a photo taken. So like, it's okay to give some direction to this person for what you're looking for. It's a transaction, you know, like, and they get that, they know that, like, that's how this all works. But, it still feels weird to be like, can you smile for me?
Yeah.
But
thankfully, this is not something you have to worry about if you get a photo up with Jared, because you have to tell him not to smile.
Yeah.
If you want him to fall a different face, you have to give him that explicit direction, because he just smiles in photos, which is beautiful.
Yeah. So I have Jackie to thank for a lot of that. We got two photos for the price of one. We got 2 hugs for the price of one. So that was great. And I, like, for my part, I went up to Jared the first time and I was like, can I have a hug? And he was like, sure. And, you know, he wrapped his big old self around me. He didn't scoot down like he did the other time with, like, I think the J2 hug. He stayed upright. So
because that was just you guys then.
Yeah.
He didn't have to try and match height with Jensen.
No. That's the one that he did when the J2 that I done with him last time. He scrunched down. Jensen just kind of like leaned over us.
Oh yeah, The other one, and that one I was. Hold on, I'm looking. I was hugging Jensen, so he was like like on that side of me. But Jensen weirdly still hovers over, even like through the hugging situation. But your hug, Kasey, he was. I don't think he bent down. He loomed over you, but he really like embraced you.
Yeah, the nature of that one was very different. So in this one, he still hugged, but it wasn't like that. It wasn't that same kind of like situation. But yeah, he was very sweet. I said thank you. He said thank you, and then we had to go back again. I said, oh darn, we got to do another hug. He's like, darn, come on in. And I was like, okay. So we just came on in and did it that way. And he is a sweetheart. But yeah, there is something about. I literally, it's weird. Like I don't look at Jensen. Like if I'm not meant to do a lot of interacting with him, I just beeline over, because I'm like, it's weird because I know I would get stuck. So I was like, I can't do that. I just have to keep moving. So I think a lot of like Jackie's customer service stuff is like what I was like, just do the thing. You got to do the thing now.
Like you don't have to think about it. Just don't think about it. That's probably better. Let's just do that. Do the thing.
So Jackie, you blue screened. Any smell that you could talk about? Okay.
Nope. Literally just his thigh touching my leg. That's all. That's
all that matters.
I'm not complaining.
Yeah. No.
I guess it's just going to have to be Jackie and Sandra DC 2025. Maybe then one of you will finally remember to breathe.
They're not coming to DC.
I know.
Oh, no, they're going to Philly, aren't they?
Yeah. Yeah, they're going to Philly.
Oh, no, Jackie, you're going to have to get a longer train. I'm sorry, babes. I'm sure that's really inconvenient.
Like, because Creation has no chill and they put tickets up so soon, I didn't have the money. I still don't have the money for it. But I'm hoping, I don't know, like the possibility of going to another convention is definitely out there. But I think I just need to specifically save up in advance.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So like, you know, I'm not going to say never to it. Like, who knows what will happen next year? But otherwise, you know, with any luck, the following year, maybe they'll come back to DC.
Mm-hmm.
That's how the universe is setting me up for Jared.
Yeah,
I missed 2, and then I get one. So I missed him in Wales, and I missed him in Scotland, and I got him in London. Not that I didn't know about them, but I couldn't afford to go.
Right.
And he's in London and Birmingham next year. And I can't afford to go because he's literally fucking London like the month before I go on holiday, and then in Birmingham the month after I come back, and I'm like, fuck my family and their requirement for beaches and shit. Why? So it's okay. So I missed 2 and I got him. I'm going to miss 2 and I'm going to get him again. And by the time I get him again, I will have had loads of time to get my tattoo removed and get my new tattoo. And I'll be able to show him. And I'll be like, you won't remember me from Liverpool 2 years ago, but I was wearing this shirt. And you gave me the best fucking hug. And I would like a repeat of that. And I would also like an autograph where I don't come across like a weirdo. Thank you.
It's going to be great, though. It's going to be great. It's going to be great when it happens.
So I think the universe said, Jackie, now is the time.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And the universe will, like, I'm not going to wish any ill will on Ted, obviously.
No.
Absolutely not. But, you know, maybe he has to work next year. And Sandra's got a ticket going begging again.
Jackie was so sweet too. She had written him sort of like a get well, thank you, and he really appreciated it very much. Jackie,
yeah, good.
He thought the sticker was cute and everything, and he was like, oh, I like that's nice. I'm like, see, but I'll say, and I've told this to Kasey, and it was a different experience because every time I've gone with Ted, and Ted is he's very lovely about, letting me fangirl, and he gets a kick out of it, and he likes being sort of like my wingman, in like these sort of situations. But it was very different. First of all, getting to meet somebody that I'd interacted with a lot online, but then experiencing that with somebody who was at the same level as I was with the fandom and the experience, and knowing and just getting to see her get to have those kind of like first times that I remember doing was really, it was fun to see it from the other side that way too. And like, I told her, I was like, man, I finally got the DC hotel down, and now they're not going to be here next year. Right all over again at the other one.
Bitch.
But it was a lot of fun, and it was great. I got a chance to talk to Michelle a few times too. And then with your buds, your Wincest buds, had a couple conversations. I was a part of it. It's just different. It's a different feeling to go with somebody who experiences it and who loves it. Not that my husband doesn't, but it's just not going to be the same no matter what.
It's different.
He enjoys it, but he doesn't enjoy it the same way.
When I came back from Liverpool, I said to my husband, I was like, my husband would have fucking loved Liverpool. Like, that is exactly his brand of nerd. I was sending him pictures of like because mine was like a proper Comic-Con. Yeah. Right. And so I was sending him pictures of like all the sets and all the props that you can go and take photos with. And he would have fucking loved it. And I said to him, like, I would really like to take you and the kids, but obviously that's the hotel and the travel would be really expensive for the four of us. So maybe that'll be 2026 for me. Maybe he'll come somewhere I can take my kids, but my husband would not be welcome there. Not a fucking chance. Cause he just, he doesn't get it. And I love him dearly, but Supernatural is not the same thing for him as it is for me. And it's different. It's totally different. And it would have to be, I'm going to go queue for Jared. I'll meet you at X landmark when I'm done. Go fucking play with Pokemon or whatever the fuck it is you're going to do. Right. I don't know. Yeah. Yeah. No, like I maybe next year's going to come and you're going to be like, actually, Ted, I really love you, but I really fucking like that weekend not with you.
It was, I mean, he was upset that he got to miss out. So, I mean, as long as he's able to do it, I know he's going to want to come this year because he has fun interactions with them too. And I think, I think just in general, I think it's a little different when a guy's involved, in a situation and it's, I don't know. It's just, I think they get a kick out of like when the wife's bringing the hubs along and they're doing different things. And my husband loves he likes to role play a little bit in those situations. So I think he was like full on into it. Like when we had to do a couple things, like at the car and stuff like that. He likes to talk about like his Jim Beaver, photo op and stuff like that. So he's very immersed in the act of it. Like he likes that part of it. He likes the figuring this stuff out and what are we going to do and how are we going to pose and stuff. So that makes it a little bit more fun. But yeah, I've told him, I'm like, so I've got a Jensen photo op. I've got 2. He's like, okay. I'm like, you're not coming to either of those. He's like, oh, okay. I'm like, just me and Jensen. To be a Jensen time, not happening, sweetie. He's like, okay, that's fine. Yeah,
there's a certain, I know for me with my husband, being a fan around other fans that we're all kind of vibrating on a similar frequency about what we're there for. Yeah. But being witnessed by someone that I know is not part of that group, that like my husband knows I'm insane about this show, but
you don't want him to see it.
And I don't think he doesn't really know like which of the guys I if I have a preference, even because I try not to, I'm like, I don't want to drag him into it all, so so then to be witnessed by him there would make me blush worse than just otherwise, because I'd be like, it's like the dread of being seen,
it's being seen, isn't it, by like somebody who doesn't get it.
Has he seen the photo?
Gets it.
Yeah,
I showed him the photo. Yeah, because like when I got home, because he was like, "How was it?" And I was like, "It was great." I was like, "And this happened," and I showed him. I was like, "Cassandra is a dear," and she shared her photo op with me, and he thought it was cute. He was he's nice. He just, and he has asked me in the past. He's like, "Should I Supernatural. I was like, no, I don't think you would enjoy the show because I know what he likes and what he doesn't like. And I think I don't think it's his thing.
Yeah.
I was like, you can watch it if you want to, but I don't think you're going to enjoy it. And he's like, all right.
Yeah.
And he just hasn't watched it. So
Yeah.
I know we're going to have one more question because Kasey has a question, but I know that I'm putting this out there now that we want to have you back, Jackie, because we want to actually like dig in. We want another whole part where we really talk about the author, fan fiction, all of that stuff, and really dig into that part of it. But we want to have you back. But
yay!
I know we've got to wrap this up. So Kasey, it's Kasey's turn.
It's my question. I normally have two, but we answered one of them right at the start, so I won't go back over that. But unfortunately, this one, the asking of this question is not satisfying in the slightest because not only do I know that Jackie knows what it is, I know that she's prepared for it.
I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. Don't worry though. I made the Dino Doc for the birthday episode, but I'm updating it. I'm keeping a record, so everyone, you're still going to be on the Dino Doc. You just didn't get the readout.
Oh, you might swing this though, and then whatever we talked about might not be accurate anymore. We'll have to see. It's accurate at time of release. I know, but still, now we'll have to see.
Yeah. All right. Well, adults don't ask other adults this question enough, so I am on a one mortal mission to change that. Jackie, what is your favorite dinosaur?
Thank you for asking.
You're most welcome. You even gave me a beat of silence.
I know. I was like, thank you. There's a little pause there.
So I was toying with going with my second favorite dinosaur because I actually am a human being that I don't usually do favorites. I have favorite dinosaurs. So I love the fact that this is a question that you asked. So like I was going to go with my second favorite. So the second favorite is Euoplocephalus, right? Which is a little spiky boy. Kind of looks like a spiky armadillo.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I have not heard of that dinosaur.
I love them. One, I like the name, but I was going to go with that because Lemons, when you had fictional Lemons on, her favorite was my actual favorite dinosaur, which is Pachycephalosaurus. And I decided, no, we're going to go with Pachycephalosaurus. One, because it's so fun to say. It's the most satisfying name to just throw out there.
How many syllables does that have?
I have no idea.
Too many.
Yeah. But also because, he's got a built-in like helmet head and he just wonks into things. And I love that. So
big bonk vibes.
Yes.
Love that.
Oh, nice.
That.
Nice.
I think maybe you might have made that a top 3 now, because that would be 2 for Pachycephalosaurus. But yeah, I love the fact that you considered it and you were like, maybe go with my second choice.
So as we wrap this up, because usually I ask the other question, but I didn't know anything in terms of like maybe your experience with the fandom that you kind of like would want to wrap up our discussion with before we say goodbye. Since you've been a part of it for almost a decade now.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're like old guard.
Like, do you, I mean, I guess a good question is, did you ever think this is where you'd be when you started?
No, well, I mean, again, it's been a running joke with my family that I'm obsessive in my interests, like since I was a small child. Like I get stuck on something and my family thinks it's cute and they tease me about it, like in a nice way. But like the supernatural thing, how can you see the level of obsession coming, right?
No.
Yeah. That's how it gets you.
Yeah.
Nobody would get into it if we knew.
Right. And like, I actually got a couple of friends of mine, like 2 of my best friends, my college buddies, just from me talking about it. I wasn't prompting them to watch it, but whenever we'd hang out, I'd be talking, because it comes up, because everything relates back to Supernatural. And there's a gift for everything. And so I'd mention it. And after a while, they're like, you've convinced us, we're going to watch it. I'm like, whoa. I wasn't trying to convince you to watch it. And they're like, no, we're going to. And last year, they started like in October, I think they started watching.
Okay.
And they finished up probably end of August, beginning of September, sometime in there. They finally finished because they were watching it like as a family. Like
okay.
And so that was lovely. Again, it was like getting reactions from them in real time, like talking with Joey and stuff.
Yeah.
And it's so nice, or like even what you got from me at the convention, right? Like just seeing somebody else go through this for the first time, it's so satisfying.
Especially when they get it right and they like it, and even if it's at a different, even if it's coming from a different angle, to see that they are enjoying it and they kind of get the why at the very base level, like why it is that you feel so much about this show. So I think that's great.
Well, that and ultimately, you know, so it really is turning out like, and I think if it was just a show that was on, right, that people were still fans of, but it was done, it was kind of it, that would be one thing. But it's the show that just keeps on giving, because you've got these conventions. There's so much like YouTube video content from conventions and from fan interactions, you know, and the guys, even this past convention, which one was that, where when Jensen picked Jared up and twirled him around about on stage?
Oh, ChicagoCon.
ChicagoCon, yeah. It just keeps giving, and I think that just keeps you hooked in, you know?
Yeah.
And even though the fandom can be toxic at times, like there are definitely elements that I think all of us agree are not healthy. Like, but even with that, it's still a matter of, it's still enjoyable, and it still feels like a family more so than any group of fans I think I've ever been able to connect with.
Which kind of makes sense, because sometimes you got to go to these things. You're like, damn, I got to deal with my uncle, whoever, and I know this is going to be an issue, but let me just maybe not try to talk about
right.
Yeah. And it's not that you don't like your uncle. It's just that sometimes he spouts some opinions at the table that you're like,
that you just don't. You're just like, I really don't. I just don't agree with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, you know, we're not advertising for keeping toxic family members in your life. If your uncle's spouting racist opinions at Thanksgiving, kick him out. But if he's like, I don't know, maybe a bit mental about his football team, just let him go. Just be like, yes, I'm really glad the fucking Chiefs won the World Series. That's nice, Uncle Dave. You know, just moderate things.
Yeah.
You know, so it's good. And I think in general, you know, the toxic elements aside, you know, the whole cast of the show is so just welcoming seeming about the whole thing. Like they seem to be getting a lot out of the fans being so into the show still. And that makes it even more enjoyable.
I love the fact that I think DJ Qualls he's had such a big resurgence in the fandom too. Like, I mean, he's really such a big part of the conventions now. Like, you know, and I didn't, you know, that's turned into a really great part of it too. Like, you know, and I think that's lovely that they keep it alive, right? Like we all fuel it in some way. And if they didn't do that, I think, you know, there wouldn't be, maybe it's just a cycle, you know, of like how you keep things going. And then the last question, then I will let you go. Do you think, it's looking less and less likely to me just because of schedule and everything, do you think they'll ever reboot it?
Okay, so I don't know. Real answer, I kind of hope they don't. Like, I think the show was lightning in a bottle. Everything worked out exactly the way it needed to. Casting wise, crew wise, all the creative force behind it, the show worked. On paper, the show shouldn't have worked, right? Like, if you describe Supernatural to someone, you feel like a crazy person as you're explaining this show. And particularly then when you're like, and it was on for 15 years and they still, like, reasonably, it's a small miracle that it worked the way that it did so perfectly. So I would prefer that we allow it to just be its own thing. Now, I don't have a problem, like, if they want to do something else based off of it, more power to them. Like, whether it works or not, like, obviously, you know, there was the whole prequel thing with the Winchesters, and that didn't get picked up, right? But, you know, they tried it, and that's fine, because that doesn't actually detract from the mothership, so to speak. You know, I would not want a reboot. I can't wrap my brain around how they could ever cast anything in any way that would work as well as what they managed. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe like a spin-off or something then.
Maybe.
But not a
like, and if we had time travel, like, and we could go back and fill stuff in, that'd be cool. But, that's not an option. So
yeah. And I think me too, like, I would just love to see at some point if they could figure something out to have Jared and Jensen, I think too. Like, I know we're lucky that we get them conventions together, but I would like to see them together again, selfishly.
I'd like to see them do something. Yeah.
Well, they're going to be on The Boys
but
together,
we don't know if they're going to be together.
Right.
Well,
but if
Cryptic's not an idiot.
I hope do it.
So. I hope so. But sometimes you can hope a lot of things and they don't happen. Hello, herogasm.
I was just thinking, Sandra, I'm starting to think it might be cheaper for you to just go up to Jensen at a convention and be like, hey, are you ever going to cut your hair in the Dean hairstyle again so I can stop pinning my hopes on this? And then he will give you an answer. He will be like, no, I wore it for 15 years. I'm done with it. Or he'll be like, when I get bored of my bangs, yeah, probably. Yeah. And I just feel like that's maybe a healthier option for you than like hanging, like putting your eggs in the, maybe they'll reboot and
I can still hope. But that doesn't mean he's necessarily going to know, like, when he might cut his hair. But yes, I would like,
if I had been not forced, but if I had played a character and had to present myself a certain way for 15 years and 9 months out of each one of those years, I would probably never cut my hair like that ever again.
Then how do you explain Jared growing his hair out again?
Jared likes long hair.
But I don't think that Jensen's opposed to haircut.
I don't think Jensen's opposed to it. I'm just saying, every opportunity to grow bangs he's grown bangs.
Okay, fine.
He had lockdown bangs. He had Soldier Boy bangs.
Fine.
He's got whatever the fuck he's got going on now with that undercut.
Okay, next time I go, I'll ask him. Like, are you ever going to cut your hair like Dean again?
I just think that's going to be more emotionally healthy for you to be able to have some closure on that question.
Don't go throwing emotionally healthy at me now. Like, it's just like, it's a want. It's a wish. It's a thing I would like at some point.
For what it's worth, I'm with you on that, Sandra, because I miss the Dean hair too.
Okay. So it's not just
me. None of y'all deserve my moose and his beautiful mane.
Jared, I'm so glad that I want him to grow his hair out more though, because Jared's hair works better longer. Like it looks
beautiful.
I think the shorter hair is more flattering on Jensen than the longer hair. That's my stance.
We are different people.
I know.
And I don't know. I feel too that it's just, I don't know, like you don't see as much of his face that I want to see. Like, you know what I mean? It's a weird thing. It's like it doesn't quite go with. I know.
He gets those little flippies.
I'm not saying
the little flippies.
I like the little flippies, but I also really like the Dean look. It's just a thing. So yeah. Okay. So for my emotional health.
No, all right. I will take emotional health out of it. I just think for your own professional curiosity, I think it's probably going to be cheaper in the long run for you to just ask the man.
Oh wait,
so a meet and greet.
Wait, so you think I'm getting convention? Every time I'm going to convention in the hopes that he's cutting his hair. Is that what you think I'm hoping for?
No, I don't think that's what's happening. I think you might be trying to like crowdsource a one-woman reboot of Supernatural. You ask everybody, and it is a valid question, but it's been going on for so long now that I'm starting to side eye you. Like
I'm going to ask every time. I'm going to ask every time.
One thing to caveat my answer, though.
Okay.
I don't want to reboot, but do you know what I would really like that I think would be doable? It would be doable. Would be for them to release I would love it if it would happen for the 20th anniversary for next year. But
I think we'll see. Yeah.
Is just a one shot. It could even be a short. It doesn't have to be a full length episode of anything, but just something of the two of them, and whether it's filling in some of the gap between episode 19 and 20, or if it's like them in heaven and what they're getting up to, you know, like whatever trouble they're getting into, or even just not getting into trouble. The two of them sitting by a lake with beers in heaven talking for a few minutes, and then just release that as a special little thing. This other idea that I had, now that COVID and the restrictions are lifted, if they could actually film the real ending that they wanted to do, as a special little extra add-on.
That would be interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, of the two of them with the Roadhouse, with everybody there and the band. And
a redo of the final, yeah.
You know, and it could just be like, it's just a little add-on. Like, we all know they wanted to do it, they couldn't do it. But they didn't end it in a way that would prevent them from doing it now. Like, it would be fun. It would be extra. It would be complete fan service, but also service for them. You know, like
that's
the cast
closure.
And crew and
the closure I think that they kind of maybe wanted. Yeah.
They could pick that straight up from the bridge.
Right.
Because that's where Sam gets to heaven. So that you can have Dean taking him back to the Roadhouse and everybody's there.
Exactly.
I bet
and that would be so nice.
I bet you with everything that they've got in play. I do think the 20-year thing is like a big thing that I think they have to commemorate it some way, whether it's an announcement of something or something that they do. And I think with the fact that, you know, Amazon's got a lot of things going on with Jensen. Jared's going to be on The Boys, or even if it's like, you know, Warner Brothers and they do something, I feel like I feel like when it comes down to it, it's consumerism, it's capitalism. I feel like the powers that be realize they've got this little lightning in a bottle that people will glom onto. And I think they will try to exploit it in some way that will be a benefit to us, you know, in one way or another. Because 20 years is a big deal. And I think that that's going to be something that has to get acknowledged in a way. And I don't think it's just going to be at a convention or just something that they, you know, a little like blurb that they put out. I think it's going to be something that they do because they're still involved in it. It's still around. So yeah, I think you're right. I think something's going to happen in some way at 20 years. So we can hope. We can hope. Yeah. I will continue to hope. And I will continue to ask my question. And we will see. We'll see if maybe I can tulpa this baby. Yes. I've got pretty good tulpa skills, Kasey. You do say.
You do have pretty good, you know, you do have most excellent tulpa skills. I'm just thinking it might be like, instead of trying to crowdfund an entire TV show reboot, I just think it might be cheaper to just ask them out.
I might. Hey, if I have the opportunity, I might.
I think you should. I think if you decide to go for another meet and greet, you should just be like, you know, put yourself forward, put your hand up, and be like, "Do you think you'll ever go back to the Dean haircut?" And then you can get him quirk an eyebrow at you and be like, "What?"
I would just ask him if I could, like, at an autograph, because there's too much to pin that on with a meet and greet that my answer would not get. I wouldn't get picked.
Oh, yeah, so, okay. Yeah, no, that's fine.
Yeah. But yeah. Well, Jackie, as I said 20 minutes ago, I was nervous to get to meet you because I was like, what's it going to be like? But then meeting you, I felt so much better and at ease. And I don't know if you had the same, like, I'm going to be stuck next to this person for like 2 days. I hope it's not going to be weird. But it was not.
For me, it was, I think I had a little bit more security because I've been listening to you. So like, I at least had a better bead, I think, on a bit of who you are, you know. And that's what my family was like, you're going to go meet internet friends? Are you going to be okay? I was like, yes, it'll be fine. I'm fine. And I was like,
oh my God, I love that.
Yeah. So, but no, it was lovely. It was absolutely lovely to get to meet you. You were delightful to sit next to. Oh, real quick with the convention. I loved the fact that you get such an unexpected group of people at the conventions. There's the people that you kind of expect, you know, like where you look, you go, you're a fan of this show, just like me, I can tell. And then there was the guy sitting next to me on the other side.
She could not figure out, did you ever talk to him? Like,
no, I never talked to him because he never talked to me. There was like an older middle-aged Asian man sitting by himself next to me. And he was totally into the panels and the whole thing and seemed to be having a grand time. And it was wonderful.
Yeah.
But it was so unexpected. And I kind of wanted to be like, so what brings you here? But then I didn't want to get into it. So
yeah. I think it's nice when you do get to like find out people's experiences, but then it's just like, wow, it's like, you know, just all these people and all the stories that they have, you know, as to what brought them to that place. I think it's always interesting. And I'm glad we got to do that. I'm glad we got to have that. Hopefully maybe at some point someday we might get to do something like that again. And, but if not, it was a great opportunity to get to meet you in person and to still have you, you know, to chat with online in the server. And I can't wait to see what happens with your podcast, and we be excited to see what happens with that. But we will let you go.
Awesome. No, thank you. I don't have any questions. Y'all are delightful. Thank you so much.
Oh,
this has
thank
been
you.
I'm glad
really
you
fun.
came. Yeah, and
Lovely to talk to.
We're going to schedule you back, so don't worry.
Yay.
It's just
Yes.
I knew we would not get to everything today.
Yeah, that was optimistic. I was like, maybe we'll record 2 episodes. No, we won't.
No.
But you have
All
a
right.
great rest of your day, and thank
Thank
you.
you.
And we'll talk
Thank
to you
you.
soon.
Y'all have
GT
a wonderful
soon,
day
Jackie.
too. All right.
Have a good
Bye.
rest of your day. Bye.
Bye. Oops, if I actually clicked.
I love that. Well, this is good. This is good.
Oh,
I had
it's so
fun.
nice.
So nice to get to talk to her again. We should wrap this up. Do you have any thoughts as we talked about many a thing?
Just that it's really great to like get up to speed because obviously you know Jackie a lot better than I do. From your weekend at DC, but I like obviously I know her from online and stuff like that, and just really lovely. It's difficult to summarize, isn't it? Because we bounce around a whole different heap of topics. I'm really excited to talk to her again when we can do like the fanfic deep dive and stuff.
Part, yeah,
because she's written some of my favorite things.
Yeah, I have a few that I wanted to shout out that I know I've already read, and I'm hoping get a chance to read a little bit more. Maybe even the big one. The big one might be done.
We I don't think either of us remembered. Jackie wrote her first explicit Wincest because of us.
Yeah? Which one?
She wrote a fic on the same prompt that we wrote our word challenge on.
Well, that's something I'll have to put that. I'm putting that in the interview notes.
I didn't remember until I was looking through her fics.
Okay.
Just a little while ago.
Well, we're gonna put that. Here, let me put those.
Yeah.
How we
forgot that.
How we corrupt people. Well, no, we weren't talking about fan fiction. If we were really talking about fan fiction,
I mean, it probably would have come up, but
yeah. So we were the instigators. Is there a nicer way of saying it?
She was inspired by our fic. I've closed the fucking AO3 thing now. Hang on. 1 second.
So this was the self-inflicted word count thing?
Yeah, but inspired by our self-inflicted word count thingy. What's it?
That's great. I think we did with
whatever this is. And so after reading Sam is My Safe Word and Drowsiness Stories in their self-inflicted word count challenge, I couldn't get this whole setup out of my head. Well, I didn't even attempt to stick to the 3K word limit they set for themselves. I did take the same prompt for a ride to see where I'd end up.
Well, that's
and
awesome.
then the prompt, and then this is my first time writing explicit Wincest. My previous fic was explicit and was Wincest, but BiDean was actually in Jessica's body when all the sex happened, so it was a very different writing experience. I also keep editing summary, so if that seems different, it's because it is. Yeah.
That's great. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, look at us. Look at us.
We're
look
so
at what
fucking
we're doing.
inspirational, guys. So inspirational.
Don't even remember.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I love how people in the fandom can inspire others in so many ways that sometimes you don't even know, or you don't even realize it's happening. So I think it's important. I think that goes back to the not toxic part of it, which is nice.
Yeah. It's nice.
Mm-hmm.
And if your Uncle David, sorry to all Davids out there, if your Uncle David just gets a little bit too passionate about sports, that's totally fine. If your Uncle David starts sending death threats and shit like that, vote him out.
Mm-hmm.
But overall, you do kind of like your Uncle David, and he was a part of the family. But don't let him be gross at the dining table.
Yeah.
That's all. Do you know what just occurred to me? Because I'm just looking at Jackie's fic now. All three of us wrote Sam getting the wrong person text from Dean. It's interesting. I'm going to do that the other way around. Stop it. Fuck. It's got to go on the fucking list now. Bollocks. Oh, look, we're right on time. When you scheduled that in for 6 p.m., I was like, we won't go that long. Fucking hell. All right, let's wrap this baby up then.
On that note, we are going to wrap up this episode. We want to thank you for listening and let us know what you thought. You can email us at idlingintheimpala@gmail.com. You can comment on Spotify in the Q&A section. You can leave a YouTube comment. Join our Discord along with Jackie and chat with fellow idlers and us in real time.
She's a fellow idler, I guess.
Yes. Check out our merch store, which is another fun way to show your support. You can find details for everything on our website. That's idlingintheimpala.com. Want to fuel our supernatural road trip? Consider joining us on Ko-fi for as little as $1 a month. We have perks to go along with different membership tiers and would love to have you along for the ride.
Don't forget, though, you can always support us for free by liking, commenting, subscribing on YouTube, and following, rating, sharing on audio platforms. Engagement like that really helps us with the algorithms. All hail their benevolence. As always, we have the causes we support in the description. So from me, you have LGBTQ plus talking charities. From Sandra, you have mental health charities. And the main causes we are championing, highlighting, spotlighting are World Central Kitchen and Doctors Without Borders. If you want to know more about these causes, why we're supporting them, what they mean to us, check out idlingintheimpala.com. There is a page there called Causes Cause with all the details. So with that, we will say thank you very much to Jackie for joining us in the back seat. We had a blast. Thank you for joining us, and we will see you next time, guys. Bye-bye.
Bye.